Okay, it is now 6:02, and I would like to call the Wednesday, June 21st, Hollis Brookline Cooperative School Board meeting to order. I'm going to have you guys go around and just introduce yourselves, and then we'll do an agenda adjustment. So I'll start with you, Tom.
Tom Solon, board member.
Cindy Vancona, board member.
Linda Sherwood, I work in the business office at the SAU.
Gina Bergstog, Assistant Superintendent.
Holly Durlow Babcock, school board.
Kate Stoll, School Board.
Rob Mann, School Board.
Tim Garzone, Principal, Hollis Brookline High School.
Brian Bumpus, Athletic Director for the district.
Patrick West, Principal of the Middle School.
Thank you. And for the purposes of dawn, we are expecting Beth Williams at 6:30, and Krista Whalen is not in attendance tonight. At this point, I do want to make an agenda adjustment and ask that we go into non-public as soon as we do agenda adjustments. I do apologize because I know there's people from the public here, but we need to do the non-public first. So if there are no objections to that, that's the first order of agenda adjustments. And then, Tom, you had one as well?
Yes, I would like to have a brief conversation about a BudCom item. It can be either in discussion or deliberations, whatever you prefer.
Okay, so we'll put Budget Committee as the BudCom update from Tom as the last item of the discussion, under discussion. So it'll be under unreserved balance update, fund balance update. Are there any objections to that? Okay, seeing none, I will need a motion. Hold on, let me find it because I have to read it exactly. Where was it supposed to be? Was non-public at the end, original?
Yes.
Okay. So I need a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, Part 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee. Is that the right one? Yeah? Okay. I need that motion, please. Moved by Tom.
Second.
Second by Rob. I need a roll call vote.
Tom, yes.
Cindy, yes. Holly, aye.
Kate, I.
Rob, aye.
Okay, so that's 5-0. So at this point, at 6:04, we are now in non-public, and we this time, I will entertain a motion to seal the minutes from our non-public session tonight.
So moved.
Moved by Tom,
Second.
second by Cindy. All those in favor?
I just want to take until our September meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, and the motion would be to seal the minutes until the September 2023 co-op board meeting, school board meeting. All those in favor? 5-0. I think I had appointed a process observer. Does anyone remember that list?
You hadn't done it yet.
Oh, I had.
No, sorry. I have an email. I sent an email with
did.
Shoot, whose turn is it? Well, who did it last?
I did it last, so it's not me.
It's
So
in
process
alphabetical
by
order. So it was
Elimination.
Rob Mann, so Tom Solon, you're the process observer. And if that's wrong, I'll correct it and change it again. I'm gonna keep that on my computer, like tape trick. Okay, so Tom will do it for us tonight. Thank you, Tom. I tried to be efficient and then screwed up. All right, we did agenda adjustments. All right, so we're up to nominations, resignations, and correspondence.
Okay. Start off with some resignations.
Okay.
All right. Dear Mr. Gerzone, it is with a very heavy heart that I must notify you of my resignation from Hollis Brookline High School and SAU 41. An engineering job has been offered to me, and I will be accepting it. This is not a decision I took lightly, as my 9 years of teaching at Hollis Brookline have been the best, most enjoyable years of my career. I know this may come as a surprise, and it was a very difficult decision for me to make. Although I am not personally motivated to leave education, unfortunately, at this stage in my life, it is not a sustainable long-term career path that will allow me to support the needs of my family due to the rising costs of goods and services outpacing that of wages. Please notify the SAU of my intentions and know that if I ever return to teaching, I will be calling HBHS first. Working in our district has been a very fulfilling experience, and I've learned a great deal from my colleagues. I want to thank you and your entire staff for making my time as an educator such a memorable and truly wonderful experience. I hope our paths cross again in the future. Sincerely yours, Adam Wilcox.
Okay, so I think it's going to be a night of sadness. I need a motion to accept the superintendent's, to accept the resignation of Adam Wilcox as a physics teacher at the high school with an effective date of June 30th, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, June 30th.
So moved.
Moved by Kate, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor? 5-0. 5 is right? Like-
Yes.
Okay, 5-0.
Small.
Motion carries.
Hello, so the next one. Hello, Tim and Aisha. Please let this email serve as my letter of resignation. I'd like to thank you both for your guidance and for allowing me the opportunity to work here at HBHS. I can't think of a better way to have started my teaching career and will always look back at these first few years with positive memories. Thank you, Dominic St. Laurent.
Yeah, the sadness is going to continue. Okay, so I need a motion to accept the resignation of Dominic St. Laurent as a case manager at the high school with an effective date of June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Kate,
Second.
second by Cindy. All those in favor? Okay, 5-0.
Dear Mr. Gerzone, this letter is to formally notify you that I'm resigning from my position as mathematics teacher and all related roles effective June 30th, 2023. I apologize for the timing of this announcement. An opportunity outside the field of education presented itself to me, and I did not have control over the timeline. Pursuing this opportunity is the correct choice for myself and my family at this time. I'm truly grateful for my time at Hollis Brookline High School and for the opportunities that have been afforded to me during the course of my tenure. I wish the school and the district all the best. Sincerely, Lance Flamino.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the resignation of Lance Flamino as a high school math teacher with an effective date of June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Kate,
Second.
second by Rob. All those in favor? 5-0.
To whom it may concern, this letter is to inform you that I, Sean Hastings, will be resigning from my position as a mathematics teacher for the 2023-2024 school year at Hollis Brookline High School. My time here working with students and administration has been nothing short of wonderful. However, after a careful reflection of my professional growth and future goals, I have decided to leave Hollis Brookline High School. Thank you for the opportunity to learn and grow within your district. Sincerely, Sean Hastings.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept the resignation of Sean Hastings as a high school math teacher at the high school with an effective date of June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Is that it?
For that category, yes.
So just let me comment that, that was a really tough list of resignations for the school district, and we're sad to see all of those folks go. And I also know that Mr. Bumpus is here, and I believe that's 3 coaches as well. So, that's a tough thing.
I have a nomination.
Well, that's great.
I would like to nominate Olga Thompson, math teacher, for the 23-24 school year at the high school. She has a bachelor's in cultural studies from National University, I don't know where, Ostro? Master's in cultural studies at the National University of Kiev, and a specialist cert math and teaching at Chapman University. Master's plus 30, step 15, with a salary of $77,750.
Can you just give me the salary?
Yep.
77. She's master's plus.
Master's plus 30,
Okay.
step.
So the motion would be to accept the superintendent's nomination of Olga Thompson for the position of high school math teacher at a master's plus 30, step 15, and a salary of $77,750.
So moved.
Moved by Kate,
Second.
second by Rob. Are there any questions on this? All those in favor? 5-0.
Okay, I would like to nominate Jessica Cormier for middle school French. She has a bachelor's in Middle Eastern Studies from Dartmouth and a master's in Near Eastern Studies from Princeton. She would be master's plus 15 at step 16.
1-6?
1-6, yep, for a salary of $76,882.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Jessica Cormier for the position of Hollis Brookline Middle School French teacher at a master's plus 15, step 16, and a salary of $76,882.
Correct.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Kate, second by Rob. All those, any questions or comments? All those in favor? 5-0.
Okay, and I have another nomination. I'd like to nominate Elizabeth Bauer for our .6 science position at the high school for the 23-24 school year. She has a bachelor's in chemistry and math from St. Olaf College and her PhD in physical chemistry from the University of Illinois. She would be master's plus 30, step 15, and then based on the .6 status, the salary would be $46,650.
So that's a .6 position? Does that have to be in the motion? Probably. .6 should be in the motion.
Sure.
Okay. So I need a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Elizabeth Bauer to a .6 position in the science department at the high school at a master's plus 30, step 15, and a salary of $46,650.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Kate, second by Rob. Questions? I feel like you have a question. No? No questions? Then this is physics. Would she be teaching physics? Or whatever you don't
So there
know?
was a little bit of shifting that Mr. Gazone can speak to, but it's
Okay.
chemistry and physical
Okay,
science.
great. Okay. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Any others?
Those are all my nominations. I have some correspondence.
Great. Sure.
Okay. Dear Ms. Babcock and Mr. Corey, this letter is to inform you that the Hollis Education Association Hollis Brookline Cooperative desires to bargain a master contract for the contract year beginning 2024. This notification is in accordance with the requirements of RSA 273A3. Please contact me to set a date for the first negotiation session. Sincerely, Stacy Plummer.
So, and then we have a motion later on in deliberations to,
I have a question. Do you know who the officer or officers are of the association?
I do. We have co-presidents Becky Balfour and Jen Staub.
Thank you.
and that was for this current school year, right? Do they change
Yes.
every year?
I didn't
They
think they
could
were.
change, right?
I think they could change. I
Like,
don't know if there's
okay.
plans to.
But that's what that's who currently is.
Currently, they go.
Great, okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other things, any other correspondence?
Nope.
No more? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, moving forward. At this point, we have some minutes to approve. We have the May 17th, 2023 minutes with the following amendments. Page 10, line 39, replace assigned with the word signed. And page 14, line 12, replace the comma with a period following course selection. So I need a motion to accept as amended. So moved. Moved by
Second.
Cindy, seconded by Rob. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? 5-0. Then we also have non-public minutes. Motion to accept as, the non-public minutes of May 17th, 2023. I need a motion to accept as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Cindy, second by Rob. All those in favor? Okay, 5-0. Okay, I need at this point, we'll move into the public hearing on the maintenance trust. So I need a motion to recess until the conclusion of the public hearing on the Hollis Brookline Maintenance Expendable Trust.
Motion to recess.
That's by Rob, motion.
Second.
And second by Kate. All in favor? 5-0. So we are in recess at 6:35. Okay, so let me pull up my notes on the public hearing. There we go. All right. So, Linda, are you presenting that?
I was going to.
You're presenting. Are you presenting? Okay. I need to know who's that. So, am I reading this?
I can. You can.
Okay.
You too.
You're going to be the person that goes in there? With RSA 198:20-C, Gina Bergsgaard will provide an explanation of the proposed expenditures from the Maintenance Expendable Trust. I'll let you go from there.
Okay. So Principals Tim Gerzone and Patrick West identified several needed repairs and improvements for their respective buildings during the budget process, which started last July. At the budget hearing for FY24, the Hollis Brookline Budget Committee recommended, along with the Hollis Brookline School Board, that the funding source for these particular items be in the Hollis Brookline Maintenance Expendable Trust. So at the high school, we're looking at a roof section, Phase 8 of 10, Section 4, for $117,000. Road paving, which is the student dirt lot and the front area additional edges, for $120,000. Kitchen renovations that are parts that will not be eligible for funding via food service for $40,000. At the middle school, some flooring, the library landing, music, computer science, and the teacher's room for a total of $21,200. HVAC upgrades, targeted upgrades to improve airflow and operations for a total of $10,000. And finally, the elevator replacement, that we had $43,000 in the trust being held for this particular repair, and we'd like to add $68,000 more to that total. So altogether, we're looking at $376,200 to be used from the expendable trust. So the current balance is $217,153. The voters authorized the addition of $300,000. With the expenditures of the $376,200, that would leave the FY24 available balance anticipated to be around $140,953.
Okay. So at this point, I'll open the floor for public comment. Residents providing input should state their name and address for the record, and we will not be going back and forth or debating this during the public hearing. We'll speak to it later. Is there anyone in the public here to speak to this? So I'm opening the floor for public comment at 6:38. And seeing none, I'm closing the floor for public comment at 6:38. And I'm going to adjourn the public hearing at 6:39. And we will go back into our regular session. And we don't need a motion to do that, right? We just
No,
Okay.
correct.
These things. Every time, I have to ask that question every single time. Okay, so, moving forward with our agenda, thank you for that. I will be opening the floor in a moment for public comment. When I open the floor is technically open for half an hour. We'll accept public comment. When people are finished commenting, we'll keep the floor open. If anyone comes in, we'll invite them to speak at a time convenient to us during the meeting, if they come in the next half hour. When you make public input, we, again, it isn't a back and forth. We generally don't respond to it. We might respond to it later on in the meeting. You might hear us comment on it. We ask you that you state your name and address for the record. You keep your comments to 3 minutes, and that you continue to be respectful and kind to all of us. So at this point, I'm going to open the floor for public input at 6:40 PM. No comments? Oh, okay, great. So glad you thought you were commenting. So,
That's off the record.
that's off the record. So at this point, I'm not going to close, but we will stop taking public input, and if someone comes in, we will accept it. So it's currently 6:40, so at
7:10.
7:10, thank you. I'm like doing it wrong, I thought 6:20, okay. At 7:10, we will be closing the floor. And that will just happen at 7:10. I will not announce it, because it's too many things. Okay. All right, so, moving forward, we have a math presentation from Lance Flamino. So, why don't you come join us, Lance, and I don't know how we're doing this. Are we doing a slideshow, or are you just
Yeah.
speaking? Are you just?
I'm just gonna speak.
Okay, that sounds great. We have it in front of us, so that's fine.
Should I go buy a microphone?
Yes, please.
Please go by
Do
microphone,
that,
yes.
or?
Yeah,
There's-
just sit. I
there's
think it's
no-
fine if you
There's
sit.
no slides or anything?
No slides, no.
The slides are in the packet.
The slides, we can look at in the packet, that's fine.
What?
We run a tight ship with computer
What do the-
turn-in.
What does the public get to see?
The packet. If the public would like to see the packet, they can pull up our agenda online. I think that's pretty much the best we can do right now.
Hi, everybody. So I was planning on just going through a few of the slides that are included with the packet, not reading the many-page report, because I think that might be tough. So start just by reminding everybody a little bit what I was working on. So it was a kindergarten to 12th grade math curriculum review conducted throughout this school year. And the goal was to explore both the written and taught curriculum in the Brookline, Hollis, and cooperative school districts. Areas of specific focus, I was looking at horizontal and vertical alignment and communication within those groups. A look into the accelerated math program and a review of common courses that are taught at multiple grade levels. For example, Algebra 1, which is taught in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th, and 10th grade. From this, the goal was to share out what I found, offer a few recommendations related to those items. I shared this earlier, but my process started with a lot of research, looking at curriculum documents within the district, testing data, and researching acceleration models and practices, both kind of what is considered best practice or what are some options for practices nationally, and seeing what schools in New Hampshire, particularly comparable schools, are doing. I spent time interviewing all the building administrators, math specialists, and any teachers that were willing to sit down with me. And then spent a little time exploring, looking into problem-solving techniques and strategies with students that come into common courses with varying entry points. And I did that through a common formative assessment given to all algebra students. Kind of collected all that data, analyzed the interviews, and a teacher survey to look for common themes, and then wrote that fun report that you guys can all read. You might want to read it right before bed.
No, I thought it was great, actually. I read it, and it was very well written and enjoyable. I really liked it.
Good. Then don't read it right before bed. It'll keep you up all night. Little bit of the timeline, I kind of went over that there, but spent a lot of time first seeing what was out there, then a lot of time meeting with people. Again, administrators, specialists, teachers. I introduced myself to all the schools and kind of explained what I was doing. Offered a survey to anybody who was offering math instruction, and within that survey, staff could opt in to meet with me and sit down and chat. I did a few follow-up questions after that, and then kind of started playing around with the common assessment, thinking of it as a little bit of a pilot, and kind of compiled everything. So, brief summary of some of the findings. I would say math learning instruction is a priority in the district, well, in all 3 districts, and that it's something that's front of mind for both administrators and teachers. Teachers and specialists are working really diligently to try to match the written curriculum with the taught curriculum. The biggest challenges they face there are pacing and gaps that appear in learning and retention, and that's partially because math is such a compounding subject and a building subject. And what I mean by the written curriculum with the taught curriculum is curriculums in general are kind of aspirational. You put everything in there that you want to get to, and then we work in a human industry, and things come up, and you have to kind of work around that. Fact fluency and number sense are viewed as concerns across grade levels. That was a really common theme. The accelerated program is placing students appropriately and focused on avoiding the pitfalls of acceleration, and the most common ones there are, with compaction, are either skimming or skipping, just because you're trying to do more in a shorter amount of time, but that's definitely on the minds of teachers who are teaching those courses. Commonly taught courses across grade levels are providing a similar experience, but it's not 100% common. Not that that would necessarily be an expectation, but there's certainly some differences there. One of my big overarching takeaways from this was that there's a lot of great things happening in terms of math instruction in SAU 41, and that improvements, many of the improvements will be made at the margins by working to continually improve instruction. Some of the recommendations I would suggest looking into in terms of alignment, commonly taught courses at Hollis and Brookline schools, providing time to meet and collaborate within those groups, and I would recommend that it should be structured and directed, because there's just a lot going on with teachers, and can easily get away from them. Dedicating time specifically to work on math would work well, particularly in the primary grades, because they're teaching multiple subjects, so if they get together, it's easy to veer off into reading, writing, science, so specific and targeted time to discuss math. Professional development, there was a expressed desire for that from staff, and they want it to be high quality and math specific, and some of that's already happening within the district, such with PD offerings like the OGAP training that's taking place next week. The accelerated program, continuing to refine the placement process would be good. Incorporating the teaching of study habits, particularly with the younger students who, when they get to the high school level, are mixed in with older kids. They just haven't had quite as much time to develop maturity as students and build study habits and resiliency. So actively including that in courses. Considering a statistics course at Hollis Brookline High School sometime in the future as additional opportunity, as well as a off-ramp for students who maybe accelerate early and find themselves looking for another path. Statistics is a course that's really useful for a variety of majors in college. Intervention, explore a possible more structured approach to Tier 2 intervention at the middle school and high school. And staffing, parity with the math specialist positions between Hollis and Brookline, and support for new teachers to mitigate the impact of teacher turnover. So those, I went into a little bit more detail on all those in the report, but didn't want to talk for too long tonight on that. And I'm happy to follow up and answer any questions that anybody might have.
I have some questions, but Tom, would you like to go first? Maybe you'll, okay, so just a few, Lance, I think this is great, and I read the report, I really did, and I thought it was really well done. So just a couple of questions. Number one, for the viewing public, when we talk about tier 2 students versus tier 1 versus tier 3, can someone just kind of summarize what that means?
Right, sure. So tier 1 is kind of the instruction all students would get.
Like in the classroom?
Right, in the classroom. And tier 2 students would be identified, and there's some wiggle room with this, as struggling in a certain area and needing more supports, but not intensive supports or pull-out. So within the middle school or high school, that might be something that could take place in study halls or CAV block. So
Or
with
like after-school
something
help,
existing.
extra help?
Or after-school
So
help.
it's extra help from the classroom teacher generally?
Yes.
Okay.
Though it
And-
could be like departmental or
Okay.
something like that. Yes.
And then tier 3 is students who need pull-out or maybe access to a math specialist? kind of?
Yes.
Okay. You have this comment, commonly taught courses, we want to provide time to meet and collaborate. So the course that I think you mentioned a lot in the report is Algebra 1, which we all know is taught in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and even 11th grade, right? Maybe. So,
Yeah, essential
So
stuff.
this might not be a question for Lance. Is it possible, physically possible, to have some PLC time dedicated to that group of teachers? Because that's combining middle school and high school. Is that something that can be done?
So it's quite challenging with the lack of subs, but early release time gives us a little bit of that opportunity. The struggle with the early release, though, is that the buildings don't have the same start and end time, so their early release times don't fully overlap. There's about an hour of overlap in the 2-hour period of time, so it's definitely possible, but a little bit more of a challenge when you cross districts.
Does Friday PLC overlap, though, for both?
No, just middle and high. Just middle and high school, but
Right.
not with the elementaries. They have
No, but
PLC.
she
No, I was
specifically asked about for
specifically asked
Algebra
like
1.
Algebra 1. So like basically middle and high school.
Could they use some PLC time
Yep.
specifically for Algebra 1?
Absolutely. We already have the geometry PLC ready to go for next year between 8th grade and 9th and 10th.
There's your answer.
Okay, that's what my answer. I was just wondering, because I know that it's challenging with the 2 buildings and whatever. Okay. The professional development that you mentioned that's happening next week, the teachers aren't in the building, so is that a voluntary professional development? That
It
they're gonna
is.
get their, they have to take a certain number?
credits, yeah.
Right, okay, credit for it,
Credits.
okay.
I will add those. So that's something that we offered last year and it was well received, but it is during the summer, so it is optional and it sells out. But of the 25 attendees, they're not all SAU 41 employees. So some of our teachers enjoyed that. We're offering it again next week, a different level of OGAP. But next year we are doing full OGAP for all K to 6 teachers 4 full days during the school year. So they asked for it and they're getting it.
Great.
What does OGAP mean?
Stands for Ongoing Assessment Project, and some of it stemmed from formative assessments, what they used originally, but it's K-8 primarily math instruction professional development on why math is taught in a certain way, how to encourage teaching multiple methods for solving things. I did one on multiplication this year. It was really fun. I learned a lot about multiplication, even though I could multiply pretty well, but I would have, if I found myself teaching a 3rd or 4th grade classroom, it would have been invaluable. It would, and I have a 3rd grade daughter, so I can attest to that. I was coming home from that and saying, hey, let's get some paper, come
Let's
here.
do math.
Yeah.
I would say that one thing that that Lance did do was this common form and assessment for all algebra students. It was in his report, but OGAP gives a framework for the discussion of the results, and so teachers can really take a look at just a formative question and then analyze the student approach to the solving. So really kind of dig into how and why students are answering the way they are, so that if there's a misconception early on in the attack of the problem, you can target that rather than just the fact that it's a wrong answer or something. Or maybe it's a right answer, but I'm not sure how they got there, so let's kind of clean that up.
There's some comments that were in here about study habits. I don't know if those are just referring to elementary school students, but then later on in the report, there's comments, I think, from the middle school and high school, and so talking about soft skills and things related to soft skills. So it's been a conversation, I think I've been involved in multiple committees or whatever, that the math department, I think sometimes, at least in my experience, is completely like my anecdotal experience, the focus tends to be on the test results and not on the process to get there. And so daily practice and homework isn't necessarily graded, which is, I understand the philosophy and the reasons for that, but I also have a life where I live with teenagers, and sometimes when things aren't graded, they don't do it. And so trying to encourage kids to keep up with the work, and that way they develop those study habits and soft skills. So that's just my comment, not a question, but just something to think about.
If I can.
Sure, go ahead.
I think this will make you happy to hear too. That is a current conversation within the math department at the high school.
Okay.
And trying to talk about it as a continuum. Like, okay, we're getting freshmen, they're 14 years old. What skills do they need? How do we encourage that? And how do we encourage that in an appropriate way that's going to help them and not hurt them? And what's it look like as they progress through the curriculum at the high school? So I think there will be some changes with that next
Okay.
year, and that's
Excellent.
something that's
great.
been discussed.
And then the statistics course is something we've talked about here regularly. There isn't, just for the public, there is an AP statistics course, but what you're talking about is more of a, not an accelerated, like not an AP class, but just a basic level of statistics that we've talked about here as another offering for the math department. Is that what I'm understanding you said? Yeah.
Correct, something like a college prep level
Right.
probability and
Right,
statistics course.
and we have all, I think on this board have said that would be a great thing. And then the question, staffing parity with math specialist positions, I assume that refers more to the parity between Hollis and Brookline, not at the high school, because obviously, or the middle school, because
Correct.
we don't have anybody to be paired with. Parity with. Okay, that's it, that's all my questions. Anyone else?
I had a question of the intervention, exploring a more structured approach for Tier 2. Are you suggesting that we need to put in place some sort of standardized criteria of something, of some kind, or is there other things that you're thinking about in that area?
Yes, I think formalizing it would be what I would suggest, and that was something that came up through speaking with administrators and teachers, that it's happening. Tier 2
Yeah.
intervention is certainly happening, but it would be wrong to call it haphazard, but in a less formal way that maybe varies from teacher to teacher. It's happening within each classroom, and
More of a judgment call?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
So if it becomes a little bit more structured, and it could be after a unit test or something, and it could be breaking that test down into certain competencies or big subject areas, and identifying groups of kids that really struggle with something that we know they're going to need later on, and making sure we're getting them somewhere where that can really be focused on.
I see. You mentioned about fact fluency and number sense are viewed as a concern. What I'm taking away is, it sounds like the professional development suggestion is a counter to that concern, or are there other steps around that concern that we could consider?
I think it's something that's definitely addressed specifically in OGAP. I know it was something that came up in the multiplicative reasoning course I took this year, so that would be part of it. I think also some of that is teachers having time to discuss strategies that work well and being able to implement them. And one concern I think that came up with staff is worried about covering a certain amount of content and not missing anything, but then also being able to go back and spend time filling those gaps or practicing with fact fluency, and feeling a time crunch, which I think is natural and something teachers are going to feel all the time.
Sure.
So I think it's a combination of those two things.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, thank you.
Anyone else? Tom?
I'll start where we finished off and circle back on that fluency issue. It sounds like that's, a lot of that is really fundamental, so it might be a bigger issue in the elementary schools where it needs to be addressed. Is it a function of what we've got for our curriculum expectations in the elementary schools that creates the time crunch? Because it's not, I don't think kids are put into that advancement cycle yet. So I'm wondering, we at the co-op don't have specific oversight of any of that, but I think at as we're moving into strategic planning for the SAU, if that's an area we need to focus on, is our curriculum aimed too much at high achievers, or is it too aggressive to foster building of fundamental knowledge?
That's a big question, and to answer really specifically, and I would say that's, in my opinion, so just be giving you my opinion, that's a piece of it. And part of that is math programs are designed I had a conversation with the person at OGAP about this specific thing. They put all the things they want to cover in a year, they split up into groups, and everybody says, okay, I need 10 days, and they put it all together, and it's 250 days. They say, okay, well, we need to get it down to 180, and they're trading days and cutting things, but really not reducing the content. This person's recommendation, who has been writing math programs for years, was teachers need to be strategic users of those, and it would be very rare that you could cover everything in a math program. So time and flexibility to really dig into a new program, which the schools will be getting soon, and know what's really important, what needs to be covered, so that way, those fundamentals can also be incorporated.
Okay, thank you. You made a specific reference to students using VLAX to circumvent current pathways. Can you elaborate a little bit on what it is that you're describing there?
Right, so if a student's not recommended for the accelerated program, they might take pre-algebra through VLAX over the summer, so they can take Algebra 1 earlier. And VLAX may not, in some respects, be quite as rigorous as the preparation that they would be getting in district. And they perhaps maybe rushing through it a little bit, covering it quickly over the summer rather than throughout an entire school year. So despite the fact that they might get the credit and pass, they might be missing some of the skills and higher level problem-solving abilities that are necessary to be successful moving forward.
Okay, thank you. When you talk about a statistics course, you also talk about how relevant it is to so many subject areas. Do any elements of our curriculum introduce that subject matter in the general curriculum prior to co-op participation? I mean, are the concepts already baked into the curriculum, and it's just a question, do we want to specialize, or is that not an area?
They are at the basic level, whereas a probability and statistics course that would come, typically it would be at least after Algebra 2, is going to be more rigorous. But pieces of probability and statistics are sprinkled throughout the curriculum, starting very early, maybe as early as kindergarten.
Are they assessed as well? The reason I'm asking is I know going back 15 years or so, the idea of things like percentages and stuff like that seemed to be blushed over pretty quickly. And I'm wondering if that's one of those areas, because of the way assessments work and things, whether that's one of the things that gets compromised in the idea of trying to crunch 250 days into 180 days?
I would say that that is possibly the case, and I can tell you that to speak specifically to my experience, that's typically what happens in Algebra 1. It's usually the last unit in any Algebra 1 program, and if you get to it, you generally can't give it the same amount of time and attention as you might other subjects.
And you're getting to it in June,
Correct.
where their brains aren't as fresh.
I think that's a fair assessment.
I'm just saying, you don't have to like agree with me on that, but let's face it, I mean, we were all students in June, so.
Yeah, so I think that is part of it, yes.
My last question is a little bit multi-component, but I'm wondering what barriers there are to moving forward with some of the ideas and that you have, some of the observations you made, that the school board can actually address, because we're very limited in what we can do. Does it require schedule things? Are there CBA limitations that impact the strategies? I'm wondering, for instance, how much of this has to do with time availability for instruction versus time availability for planning or development versus funding? Because these are the kind of things that we can impact. We don't do anything directly involved in the classroom. Do you understand my question?
I think I do, and I think time availability for the work is the biggest challenge, particularly with so many competing interests.
Do you mean in the classroom or for the teachers?
For the teachers to collaborate, and not sacrificing necessarily time in the classroom for that, or overlooking the many other things that are already important and take up some of that time. I think that's a particular challenge at the primary levels because each teacher's teaching so many different subjects. So at the high school level, if we can find a little bit of time to meet, we're really focused on that one thing, specifically math. Whereas that small amount of time to meet at those primary levels, there might be a pressing need with literacy, or the pressing need might be math, but it's harder to fit in all those things, and they're on a similar time schedule to middle and high school students who are focused on one subject. So teachers, I said
Yeah.
students.
Yep. So you've your survey clearly showed that the majority of staff members were interested in additional professional development. Did you get a sense from them as to what they saw prevented them from getting that professional development?
From the survey respondents, I might not have gotten a specific sense of that. From some of the interviews, I think part of it is just the amount of time that's dedicated to it, particularly during the year. I think by the time we get to June, there's not always a huge appetite to sign up for summer professional development. I think teachers are a little bit fried and want to refresh. So I think that's part of it. And I think sometimes the feeling was maybe training on a new curriculum feels like a salesman's talking to them, rather than somebody who has taught with the program and used it specifically. So I think part of the challenge might be finding that good professional development and making it available.
Was there any mention of individually pursuing it? Because as a district, we have fairly generous opportunities for people to pursue areas of interest on their own. And surprising to me is how frequently that goes unused, although it's been a point of heavy interest when it is discussed in contract terms. So I'm sort of, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm sort of getting the sense that they want professional development, but they only want it within their workday. Is that,
I would just add to that, and I realize this is the co-op board, but specifically for our elementary teachers, there is some concern that they don't know which PD to sign up for because they don't know which one is going to be a good math PD or a helpful one. So they are looking for direction. But the problem with that during the school day is it's really challenging to send all my teachers out when we have students. We don't have any subs. So it's just trying to balance it all. And that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing in the PD, so we're all going to have it on those.
I'm just
4
wondering
days.
if there's a need for PD, what do we need to do to make that accessible without messing up the day? Because we do have all these avenues open for continuing ongoing professional studies for our staff. I know in the co-op, I'm guessing there's some similar contract language for reimbursement for approved outside. But what would be an appropriate incentive to get people to invest their time outside the school day to do it?
That's a very
So payment for participating in professional development during a non-contract day would be certainly helpful.
Okay.
So more than reimbursement, actual
Payment.
Payment for that might be an incentive that could be considered.
I don't know.
Oh, we've thrown it out there.
Wouldn't be, I don't think
So,
anyone would
Are you set,
run
Thomas? I
away
have
from
one
it.
more question.
Yes.
Okay. Just, I don't even know if this is for Lance, but this, the plan here, from a curriculum review perspective, was that we were piloting this. This was a pilot, right? You were gonna do this and present this, and, I mean, the board can give feedback on the pilot in the future. Is that what we're gonna do in, like, another meeting, maybe in July or August? Is there plans to move from pilot to, this is the way we're gonna do this, and have another, a stab at something else, science or social studies or English? Like, are we moving forward with this?
We don't
Or
have,
have you made a recommendation yet? Sorry.
we do not have plans to do it for next school year.
Okay.
But I would love to have that conversation to see if the board felt it was valuable. And maybe part of that is, well, what are we going to do with the recommendations? And what impact do they have? And then look to see if that's something we want to move forward with.
Okay, so can we put that, we'll just make a note to put that on
Yeah.
a follow-up.
Absolutely.
On an agenda, maybe in July or August.
That raises an interesting question. Lance, having completed the process and knowing what was most beneficial in the process, if you were to now do it again, to what degree would you alter the process that you went through? Where would you change any of your emphasis or focus?
I think a lot of it could be the same. I think if I could go back and do it again, spending a little bit more time trying things out, like that common assessment with the algebra, and that one of the reasons that became a little bit more of a focus is just because I was teaching algebra courses.
Right, sure.
So I had easy access to a lot of that. But I think attempting more small little pilot opportunities like that at different grade levels would be something I'd want to do, so something a little bit more tangible, because I think moving forward, something like that would be easy to refine and to put into place. You know, if we're talking about HBHS and HBMS, using PLC time for something like that, I think would be an easy first step.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Lance. This was great. I mean, in my opinion, it was great. It was really informative and helpful and.
And
great review.
actionable, which I like.
Yeah, it's actually, we have specific things that we can look at, and like Tom said, specific things from a board that we can, I mean, like you said, like we could incentivize PD, we could work on schedule, there's things that we can do that are within our purview, so that's great. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed the process, and I appreciate being able to do it.
And we're really sorry to see you go. I mean, we can't really say too much on that, but we are really sorry to see you go, so. But good luck
But
in
we
your future
congratulate you for
endeavors.
whatever's next.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, indeed.
Good luck with
Appreciate that.
everything. Thank you very much. Thanks for your
Just
service.
don't drag anybody with
Thank
you.
you. And you can leave. You don't have to stay for the rest of this meeting. The rest of us do, though, even though we don't want to. Great, thank you so much. All right. Are you good, Gina? Okay, she's there. I guess at this point, we're gonna talk about some dugouts. Is that what we're talking about right now? All right. That's what's on the
spot,
list
huh?
here.
Do you want me to do my report too, or just go dugouts?
Well, I actually skipped the principals. I went right to math presentation and I didn't do the principals report. So how about we do that? I'm sorry, guys. I
I
don't know.
thought you were doing it
was-
just to let him escape.
I know, I would have done his, you guys would have recommended him going first anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I mean, you let him
Oh, yeah.
leave, yeah. So,
My
but,
that's my priority.
so how do we want to do this? And gentlemen, do you want Brian to go first in the principal and athletic reports and do
Sure.
the dugouts? And then you guys can go? All right.
Thanks.
Thanks
you
so
dig it?
much.
All right, so
I need
I'll
it like
go
literally spelled out to me.
report first, I guess. So first and foremost, as I know everybody here probably already knows, we had a great spring season at both the high school and the middle school. We actually had 4 championship teams this spring. Middle school baseball won the Tri-County Championship in exciting fashion with a 2-1 walk-off victory down on the high school baseball field. Girls lacrosse made the finals for the second year in a row and won the championship over Hanover. Same thing, very exciting. Scored the winning goal with 30 seconds left on the clock. It was a lot of fun. And then both baseball and boys volleyball won the second of back-to-back championships this spring. So I'd like to just, acknowledge those teams, congratulate them and their coaches and all the players and parents. And thank, obviously everybody in the community for their support. Along with those teams, the high school this year actually had every single team that has a tournament made the tournament this year, which is the first time that that's happened in a long time. So very, very exciting. Softball actually made it to the Final Four before they lost to Kingswood by a run in the semifinals. Boys lacrosse and boys tennis both lost in the quarterfinals, and the girls tennis team lost in the prelims. But either way, it was a fun, exciting season for everybody. Our track teams, both our outdoor and unified, had great seasons as well. Track had 2 New England qualifiers. Marcus McCamick, who actually decided to attend the New England Championships with Mr. Fumino up in Bangor, Maine, instead of his graduation ceremony, which was very exciting, and Lily Bouchard both participated in that event. At the middle school, again, a great season, just like the high school. Both lacrosse teams made the playoffs, with the boys lacrosse team making it all the way to the semifinals. And the track team at the middle school just completely exploded with participation numbers this year. They had close to 80 participants on the middle school track team, which is just crazy. It's great to see. Super excited to see our numbers really starting to rebound and come back since our kind of blip on the radar with COVID and everything. But it's great to see so many kids participating. Before I talk about dugouts, I'll just touch on the Booster Club. So the Booster Club this year ran a sellout golf event, which I believe is 144 golfers, which is crazy. They were actually turning people away. They were able to raise a little bit over $13,000, which will go into their general fund and help support our teams and programs with different needs throughout the season. We're actually talking about hopefully switching up our camera system, because anybody that has tried to watch our events through our live streaming services has noticed that we've had some issues with the current system. So that's something that's on the docket. I've been working with Steve Davidson and our new president, Mr. Mo Turcott, on looking into what we can do to remedy that situation. Do we want to do questions and then get into dugouts, or
Yeah,
just jump into it?
any questions or comments on the general athletics? I just, congratulations to all the teams, all of them, whether they made the state championship or not, but specifically congratulations to the whole athletic department, because I believe we had 5 state championships this year, which is
It's the most we've ever had.
incredible and the most we've ever had, and we've got 2 back-to-backs. And then I don't know what the middle school tally is, but I think the middle school's been doing super well as well. So it's great to see success, but success isn't just about winning.
That's true.
I have to say it every time.
Any other questions?
Okay,
All
middle
right.
school dugouts.
I'll dive into the dugout. So, obviously, there was a, excuse me, deficiency that was noted with our middle school softball field, that the middle school softball field did not have dugouts. So, since that was brought to our attention, I've been working through our bid process to try and gather bids in order to remedy that situation and get dugouts installed as soon as possible. It's been pretty challenging getting contractors to respond. So far, I have 2 contractors that have gotten back to me. One, as you can see, I did indicate what their bid was. It was for just under $30,000 to install both dugouts, which includes slab foundation, 3-wall structure with a roof that mirrors the footprint of the HBMS baseball dugouts. They want to come in and, obviously frame it using pressure-treated lumber, and then use composite materials for any siding or any other component of the dugout that would be exposed to the elements, which would help with the longevity of the structure. The other bid, which did come in after I submitted my report, was for significantly more. It was a much larger sum that this company came back with. It was actually to the tune of about $136,000 for the 2 dugouts. I'm still waiting for them to send me what that actually entails, and what that dugout actually looks like. But, with those 2 bids in front of me, I think it's pretty clear the one that we would prefer to go with. The company that did submit that bid is actually a Brookline-based business. It's called Green Nature Homes. They have students that are in the school system now. I believe their son is an 8th grader at HBMS that will be coming up as a freshman next year. Just obviously very connected within the community. They've done a lot of work on the town fields as well with their concession stands and dugouts down on the Hollis field. So they're well-versed in that type of construction.
Excuse me, Brian.
Yes.
At the Bud Club meeting, Tom Whalen mentioned that Hollis is going to be building 4 dugouts.
Yep.
Are these the same people who are doing those 4, I think?
I believe they are putting bids in. I don't know where they're currently at in their bid process.
Okay, because they thought there might be an opportunity to piggyback onto that work. Was that made aware, were you made aware of that?
Yeah, it was, and I've been talking with Erica through some of that stuff. They were definitely further behind in the process than we were, and I don't know if timing-wise, we may be able to work something, knowing that we're trying to get this done
No,
before
I
the
just,
snow
when you
flies.
mentioned that they've done work on the town fields, I
Yeah.
thought that might be what you were referencing.
Yeah, I'm sure that Green Nature will be putting bids in for that.
And Green Nature's bid is the $29,000.
Green Nature is $29,900, yep. I would also add in there too, and I'm just waiting on a material list from Green Nature, but we do have a business that would be willing, if able, to donate the materials, just the materials.
The actual materials or the cost of?
The actual materials, which would thereby, take away from that cost. Understanding that if it's above a certain amount, then we would need to come back for approval for that. But I just wanted everyone to be aware that that $29,900, pending that total dollar amount and pending board approval as necessary, could be less than what's quoted here.
Okay. But you don't have the donation yet?
No, I'm just waiting for Green Nature to get me the material list with the costs
Okay,
on it.
because a donation of materials that's over an X certain
Yep.
amount, we would have to approve, we'd have to
course.
accept that, so,
Yep.
yeah.
But Green Nature is amenable to the idea of the material being
At this point,
donated
that's
rather
fine.
than them purchasing and being able to include that in their bid?
Yep, as long as we can get the materials that they're
They
looking
want.
for. Yep.
Great. Thank you. Are there
But either
any-
way, that would be the maximum that we'd be looking at is $29,900.
So if this goes into deliberations, we would deliberate on the number $29,000 and with the hope that that would be coming down with potential donations?
Yep.
Okay.
I would say up to 29.9 would be the, yeah.
Up to 29.
When does this bid expire and what's the the schedule for construction?
So they didn't give me an expiration date on it, but their intention is, as soon as we have the approval to move forward, they intend to get in there and get them built. And I met with them on site and kind of looked through the area. They wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be any permitting concerns or anything like that, which there were none.
Just answer that.
And they have every intention of having them completed before school starts.
I'm just wondering what the deadline is to make a decision and still meet your schedule.
I would say sooner than later. My hope was to have them built prior to, say, November 1st. So if I went back to them tomorrow and said, the board approved and we're ready to move forward, they would start construction as soon as possible. I would assume probably the second week of July. And their intention was to have them constructed, ready for use by August 18th. So I think they only need about a month to get them done.
I'm trying to figure out whether we want to make a decision before we know what the final bill's going to be, and will that impact where the money is coming from, and therefore what our position will be. So there's a lot of assumptions in the at this point, all we can go is on the worst case, which is the $30,000.
Right, we could do a motion to approve up to 29.9 with a hope that, we won't say in the motion, but hopefully there'll be some chunking away at that. But if for some reason the project were to come in higher for some reason, they'd have to come back to us.
And based on the bid that I'm looking at, they have here quoted for materials and labor, so that's why I'm waiting for a more itemized list to see what that actually looks like for materials. It would be, so again, this is including labor, it's $5,500 per dugout. So that's why I need that list to know exactly what that donation.
$5,500 is labor and materials?
Per
combined.
dugout, so it's
Yeah.
$11,000 of the bid is
But there-
materials and labor. Right.
Where's the 29 come from?
Where's the rest of them, what's the?
Is that
third-
site work?
So that's roofing, that's painting, that's.
The slabs.
The slab foundations. That's all the other components of that bid. I mean, the foundations alone are $8,400 combined.
So,
Do you know or are we going to discuss this elsewhere, what the proposed funding source for this would be?
I think Kelly sent it to us in a memo.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to
There's a
look.
business office memo.
There's a business office memo covering that,
It's
and
in-
we'll
it's
talk
in the
about it when
packet?
we get to
It's in the packet, yep.
deliberations.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. Any other questions for Brian on dugouts or athletic court? Great.
I just want to recognize we got a note from a parent who was particularly appreciative of the unified sports that are going on, the impact it's had. And,
We did?
yep.
We did a week ago? About that? I missed it. I'm sorry.
And again, I want to recognize the athletic department for the work that they've done over a number of years, expanding that program and
Excellent.
bringing more and more students into participation. It's not by accident that that's happening.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Tom, for that reminder. That's
Thank you.
excellent. So, Brian, you're welcome to stay, but we are not deliberating on that item until like a little ways from now. So, it's up to you.
I can stay and be here if there's any questions. or-
Okay, then you may as well stay. Thanks, great.
You missed your window.
Now you're here for the night. No,
Jess may
kidding.
be calling in a minute saying no.
Right, she's got-
Wait till we
she's got
start
grandma-
talking about
she's got
policy
grandma on deck.
DEAB or whatever it is, then you'll really want to get out of here. Okay, great, so moving on to the principal and athletic reports. This is taking a while.
All right, I'll go first tonight. We've got, well, first off, congrats to all of our athletic teams, the whole program. is in a really great place, and a lot of that is due to the guy sitting next to me. So hats off to all our programs. Like Holly said, it is not just about the winning. We do that, but we also do a lot of other awesome things, including our Unified program, which makes me proud every time I'm out there. So good job, Mr. Bumpus. Highlight a couple things here. As we headed into the end of the school year, we once again brought back our local veterans into the classroom. Our civics and government courses hosted a Q&A session, as we do annually with our local heroes. They had an opportunity to share their experiences, talk about their service, answer questions with kiddos, and then also highlighting the relationship that our school has with our veteran community, and it's a valued and important part of the student experience. So students coming through HBHS and HBMS as well have an important valued element in their student experience, incorporating that relationship with veterans. We had a district concert, which I believe was the first time since COVID, where we hosted over 130 elementary students, about 40 students from the middle school, and then about 30 concert and jazz band students from the high school, all in one show up at the high school. So that was a highlight of our spring performing arts. In addition, I wanted to highlight our NHS chapter project. We had 2 students who led the way, Noah Moyer and Tommy Anderson, our president and vice president, as well as his name didn't appear, but Aiden Barker served a huge role in organizing this event. Students took part in a full-scale assembly production line, building beds for children in need, and this was something that the student leaders sought out as a volunteer project for the chapter project for NHS, and it was quite impressive. It happened over the course of a weekend last month, and 1 day of setup and 1 day of the build, and it was quite an impressive project. So hats off to Mr. Hersey and Mr. McFarland for their leadership throughout the entire school year with NHS, but specifically this project was certainly a proud moment for the school. I wanted to highlight our last performing arts event of the year. HBHS presented 8 Minutes Left. Mr. Barbosa and the entire department took part in the event just earlier this month. Student cast, stage management, set designers, and costumes were once again top-notch and very entertaining. I wanted to highlight some of the things that we already talked about tonight, our personnel updates. So that physics position, while the position was open with Mr. Wilcox vacating the .6, so we will remain at a .6 capacity next year. If you recall, that is a 1.0 position. Our long-term plan will be to return to that 1.0 position as it once was designed to be filled. So Mrs. Bauer comes to us with a chemistry background. As you may know, we do have our teachers of chemistry and physics teach physical science. With a little bit of shuffling of coursework around, we were able to design this position with a chemistry section and 2 physical science sections. So a little bit of shuffling around, and we were able to hire this individual who we really do think is going to strengthen the program and our chemistry, our science department in general, but more specifically our chemistry offerings. So very excited to bring on Mrs. Bauer, and this particular opportunity allowed us to do so. Couple active teacher position interview committees that we have open. As you heard earlier, we had 2 math resignations. We had 1 math hire, so we currently have 1 math position that is open. It wasn't posted as anticipated. We'll update that after tonight's board meeting as an open position. The computer science position, which you heard about last month, I think it was last month, Mrs. Spargo, her departure is proving to be a very difficult position to fill. You may recall when we ran the course enrollment numbers, a lot of those courses did have some lower enrollment numbers. We were able to, we're going to provide Mr. Foto with some, we're going to send him to an AP Institute, so he will be taking on a 6th class next year, that AP Computer Science class, so that'll remain an offering for our students. As well our personal finance courses, so those are semesterized courses. There were 3 on her schedule, totaling 30 students. We were able to consolidate that down to 2 sections, and we'll have those 2 semesterized courses taught by another teacher in the building. So those will still be offered to all the students who wanted to take it and work for their schedules. Some of the lower enrollment elective courses, such as web design and computer game design, should we be unable to fill that position, those courses will be collapsed for the coming year. We will hold out hope that we find someone, but if that doesn't work out, that will be the plan moving forward. We have a special ed case manager position. That was Mr. St. Laurent, who resigned, and that position is currently posted and open, and we do have some viable candidates in the pool at this moment. We'll be conducting interviews in the near future. And I just wanted to make a note here. It didn't end up in my board report. We just confirmed we will be hosting an exchange student next year through the Rotary program. And Martine, she's from Norway. And one other note, I will be bringing forward a handful of new course proposals to be discussed at the July meeting.
Great.
For inclusion when?
So for consideration of inclusion in the program of studies in the fall for the following school year.
Great. And so the July meeting will have our introductory conversation about program of studies. So as board members, if there's anything that you are thinking about or whatever, that's an opportunity to speak to that.
Yeah, some of
So-
those, we've touched base about Latin 3, business
Statistics,
writing, there's a handful of anthropology, archaeology.
Stats.
I don't know if stats was on that list
Okay.
of new course proposals.
But that's just one that we keep talking.
That's one that keeps coming up, yep, but that was not one that was brought forward. from
Just gonna
staff,
keep
but,
throwing it out there.
yep. So,
It's a good class.
that will be on the docket for, and I'm happy to discuss any topics.
Do you have a question, Tom?
Yeah, question and a comment. The .6 science with Ms. Bauer, were you hoping that was going to be full-time this coming year? Is it budgeted to be full-time?
So the schedule was built because, and we were able to accommodate Mr. Wilcox's requests, you may recall, for the .6 status.
For the current year, right? But had he asked for .6 for next year?
For 23,
Mr. Wilcox was not in the building this year.
He had to leave this past
Oh,
year.
I thought he came back and was doing .6 this semester.
No, he was agreed to
Oh,
come
okay,
back for
okay.
next year as .6.
So he had agreed to come back as .6. So the schedule was built with him teaching 3 out of 5.
Yeah,
And so when we learned about his resignation, we had an opportunity, we posted as such, and the .6 worked out.
I guess the question is, if it got expanded to a full-time, is Ms. Bauer interested in it as a full-time?
I think the long-term plan would work out
But
well
there's,
for us and for her.
is there any interest on your part to make it full-time for the coming year?
This coming year, no.
Okay. Is it for budget reasons or schedule reasons?
For schedule and personnel reasons, I think.
Okay,
.6.
it sounded like you were sort of cramping things and covering it, but it didn't sound like it was necessarily a situation you wanted to be in if you
There
could
was a
have
little
changed
bit
it.
of shuffling as far as teacher preps,
Yeah.
as far as who's teaching what. But as far as course enrollments, I think our science sections
Okay,
are healthy
okay,
numbers.
that answers my question. The other thing is, I think it was in something you sent out that had a pointer to Aiden's project with the interviews.
Oh, yeah, his,
And I
yeah.
just want to comment, anyone who hasn't looked at.
His
you got-
podcast,
you-
yeah.
You got to see, because to me, this is a program that we might want to make, not necessarily mandatory, but get our students to listen to it, because the advice that came from those recent grads is phenomenal,
Yeah,
phenomenal.
so I did include it in a correspondence to the community, which you got as a board member, and then I included links also to our student body in a weekly communication
But
with
we
kids.
we should promote that, because that as a resource, that's the kind of thing that it's very hard to come by.
So electronically, I mean, I can include,
No, but I'm thinking, like, let our counselors and stuff know that this is something that they should promote to their, probably at least juniors, if not earlier, even incoming freshmen, because the wisdom that's expressed by those recent graduates and the context is such that I think it's very digestible and usable by kids as early as middle school. It's presented in a way, and it's very hopeful and somewhat liberating in its presentation. So I think it's an amazing accomplishment and something that we should leverage however we can to help our kids.
thanks, I'll get that message to them, agreed on all counts, and if you want, I can just forward the links to search.
Was it in the in your news?
It was in one of my Friday emails.
Yeah, I missed it. I was probably focused too much on what was happening for seniors.
Yeah, it was
So-
right around graduation
Yeah.
that it went out, yeah.
But thank you for sending that along,
Yeah,
it's great.
that's great. So I just want to congratulate the graduation committee and all of you, because that was a heck of a lot of work.
Yeah, we did
That's
that
quite
too,
the
yeah,
project.
Controlling the weather.
And, somehow you managed to make the weather perfect, like just a little bit of rain, but it was, so I just wanted to congratulate. And then I usually try to comment on some of this, so obviously congratulations to the band students and all of that. The New Hampshire, the NHS project, all those kids who worked hard on it, specifically Aiden and Noah and Tommy. And then another great performance was done by the Performing Arts Department, so congratulations to all of them. Anything else? Any other comments for Jim? Questions? Okay. Moving on to the middle school and Mr. West. And I have to find it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's first. Thank you. Great. Good job.
So just end of the year celebrations went great again this year with our 8th grade luau on June 14th, where we were able to celebrate our 8th grade students. Thanks to Sam Boudreau, who's been a great addition to HBMS as the computer science teacher. She put together the 8th grade picture presentation, which was filled with student pictures from the years up until 8th grade. She did a really nice job with that. The following day, 8th grade students went off to Mel's Funway Park instead of the traditional Canopy Lake Park, as last year's trip was not maybe what students thought it was going to be. This year, Mel's Funway Park accommodated all of our students, just about 200 8th grade students. We were the only group there, and it seemed like it was very well received by 8th grade students. They got bumper boats, they had go-karts, they had laser tag, they had mini golf, they had batting cages, and it seemed like they really had a great day when they got back, and staff also really enjoyed participating in those activities and competing against the students. The award ceremony was the last day of school. Over 100 students were recognized for different awards. The day before, on June 15th, our 7th graders had their Outsiders Day, which was also ended with some field activities and the traditional barbecue, which was cooked, chefed up by the fire department and police department. Our spring concerts were June 5th and June 6th. June 5th and June 7th. This year was really noticeable to see the improvements that both groups made from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And both concerts, great performances. I think our chorus this year had over 60 students, and our band numbers are starting to get back to where they were before COVID. So congratulations to Nancy Spencer and Liz Nault for great concerts and great year. Our 25-plus book club challenge continued this year. We had some increase in numbers, not only for students, but staff as well. They had a nice little lunch last week, thanks to Sue Kinney, our librarian, and students received a $5 gift card from Balin Books. The 8th grade teachers put together an academic challenge, which we're talking about putting together for the entire school next year. It was kind of like your classic academic decathlon, where different activities, including athletic, sports, and some math and thinking games. There was some teacher trivia, current events, and other fun games that everybody participated in. And it seemed to be a great way to end the year with 8th grade students. This week, I didn't put this in my board report, but we did have our end-of-the-year PD. Staff were offered the Avoid, Deny, Defend training opportunity as well as Stop the Bleed training to continue increasing our safety preparedness in a building. Staff also took up the incident command training, and Rick Bergeron has been helpful in the Stop the Bleed, and local police department help with the Avoid, Deny, Defend training. So it's just been nice to get back to our safety preparedness, getting ready for next year, even though it's the end of the year. And then just some end-of-the-year dates and some upcoming dates for the beginning of next school year. The dates on here for August 22nd and August 24th for the student open house days, we did shift due to our new higher orientation. Those will actually be August 21st and August 24th. Same times.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and congratulations to everyone on this list.
Thank
All those kids who are reading and spring concerts and those 8th graders. I never even heard of Mills. What's the name of the place?
Mills Funway Park?
In Litchfield?
How come I've never heard of that?
Sounds like maybe a board trip.
Maybe I need to go do some go-karting. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Any other questions or comments for Patrick? Thank you very much.
Of course.
Okay, moving on to discussion. We have to talk about the fiscal year 2023 revenue and expense report. I think that's why Linda's here.
Well, that would be right.
Great, let me
And I
find
feel
it
like I
in my
just
very large
talked
agenda.
about a minute ago, but it was a month. And in that past month, I will say that, even though our numbers in the expense side have not changed a lot, we have processed over 700 invoices. And let me rephrase that, not we, Jessica Sennett, my fabulous accounting specialist, processed 700 invoices for co-op in the last few weeks. So things are moving fast and furious in the business office, but I will say that since my last report, the bottom line on the expense side has not changed hardly at all. So out of our $27.6 million budget, we're still showing $1.3 million of funds that we do not expect to spend at this time. On the revenue side, again, it's not a lot different that I can say here, except for the fact that I want to take a minute to talk about the conversation I had with our Director of School Nutrition, Amy Cassidy, today, because our food service numbers, as you can see from our report, look really good, look great this year. And so I asked her for her opinion on why our food service sales, even though it's not taxpayer money, coming from the parents and kids, have been so great. So a few quotes from her are, "We are passionate, myself and all staff at the co-op feel like all these kids need to eat and be nourished to succeed in school and perform their best. This means we must provide them with variety and choice. We try to offer choices for everything, favorites, vegetarian, gluten-free, etc. They love choice. We are also very resourceful. We carefully watch, count, and forecast what to make. I look at the numbers to see what sells and what does not." And then she also talks about this age group eats, all in caps. They are hungry and growing. Many of them will get a meal and then a la carte items in addition. So we make sure to price that fairly and have enough. And then finally, we try to provide excellent customer service. We smile and welcome them and make them feel special. Oh, and try to stay current. I tend to look at restaurant menus around us and try meals that I know are popular. For example, meals similar to what they're eating at Chipotle. So I just wanted to highlight that conversation because I feel like we should all be very proud of our food service program, and we don't really talk about it very much.
Great, thank you so much, Linda.
Okay, so bottom line on the expense revenue report is after funding the maintenance special ed trust, retained fund balance, and contingency fund, we would end up with a projected fund balance of $330,221. Before we go over to the memo from our business administrator, that retained fund balance of 2%, I just want to point out that $398,000 is the maximum amount. So the board could choose a dollar amount less than that if they chose. It doesn't have to be $398,000.
We do that in August.
And you do that, right. So there is a memo that Kelly Seeley wrote in your packet, which Gina will speak to more in detail, but she did talk to me this morning and said she really wants to convey the message that even though our numbers could fluctuate a little, we're not at the end of the year, we have a few weeks to go, we feel pretty confident that the numbers won't get worse. In other words, the savings we're expecting, we feel pretty confident in. If anything, it might be more. So she doesn't want you to hesitate on making decisions based on the fact that we're not at June 30th yet.
Okay.
And then I think Gina wanted to talk about the memo.
Yes, I'm just
Thank you so
looking
much,
at-
Linda.
You're welcome.
For your thoroughness, conciseness, and making it understandable for even someone like me.
You're welcome.
I just want to pull up one piece that you just spoke to that I just want to put in my head. Sorry. So, this year, we had warrant Article 6, which was to to increase the amount of the retained fund balance. And so we actually can go up to 2.5%. This represents 2%. So
Oh.
we can go up a little bit higher, but we can also go less. We can do
And
whatever
it
we
was
want.
Previously what?
It was 1%. But we adjusted it because really 1%
No, I understand. I
needed,
just-
yeah.
Well, last year, the retained number we were showing was 184,000.
Yeah.
So now on this one, we're showing 398,000. Yeah, significant difference.
Okay, so just looking at the year-end fund balance, so as Linda just described, that we're looking at $330,221. And we included $200,000 that we would anticipate be returned to the taxpayers in the form of a tax rate reduction or tax effort reduction. So if we remove that amount from the $330,221, we're left with $130,221. And so that's 100% a result in changes in student services programming and/or special ed students moving out of district. All right, so some scenarios to consider.
Can I just,
Yep.
I'm a little bit confused because isn't the retained fund balance in the estimated needs, isn't that essentially already capturing is there a difference between the retained unreserved fund balance and the retain, and?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying now?
so if you go back to the revenue and
Page
expense
38
report,
In there.
and that little box,
Yeah,
and if you look at it, so there's an unreserved fund balance of $1,178,654.
yeah.
The voters approved up to the $300,000 for the maintenance trust.
Right.
The voters approved up to $25,000 for the special ed trust. The voters approved actually 2.5% for the retained fund balance.
Right.
But that dollar amount, we don't have to worry about until after the
Yeah, I
audit.
understand that.
And then the contingency fund, the voters approved the $125,000. So that leaves us with $330,221 that is currently a fund balance.
But we can't keep more than 2.5%.
Correct.
So if, at 2.5%, what's that 398 become? Another, that's 2%? So
Well, it's about
0.5% is
400,
a 50,000.
so
50?
500,000.
About 450. So even if we went to the max, that would only take 50,000 out of that 330?
Well, if 2% is 400,
Yeah.
then 1% is,
200. So then half of that.
0.5% is
Is-
50. So if we add it, if we.
it's
Would be
100,000.
0.5% would be 100.
100,000.
Because it's
Okay, so
$400,000.
Okay, yeah,
So
you're
half
right,
would be
you're right.
200.
So if
so,
if we retain the maximum, based on the projected fund balance, we're required to give back 230.
no. So I think what we're looking at is scenarios to consider. So just as last year, we approved the expenditure of some items such as I believe the turf field parking lot was purchased with a year-end fund balance. That had nothing to do with the retained fund balance, because we just spent money that was left over.
But in the scenario that we're in,
Yep.
worst case, with all that's being proposed, even if we go up to went up to the 500,000 that we're allowed, we'd be giving back 230, correct?
If we retained 500,000, then we would be giving back 230 if we didn't spend
If
any
we
of
don't
it.
spend any of it, yeah.
When you say spend any of it, you're talking about things beyond what's been approved?
Correct. So this memo is about things to consider
So
spending.
those are not rolled into coming out of that
Correct.
approved? Okay, got it. That's where I'm off key.
Okay. All right, so looking at that,
Scenarios to consider?
some
Are we back
scenarios to
that?
consider, yes. So, 330,000 balance includes retaining only the 2% at 398,000 that we can retain for FY '24. And you'll vote in August. The board can decide to retain less than 2%, 1.5, 1.75, 1. It's 2.5 that was voted on as the maximum. Last year, we retained around 184,000. In FY '24, we have a contingency fund of 125,000. If you recall, that was almost like, well, if they say no to the increase of the retained fund balance, let's have this contingent warrant article of the contingency fund, and then they both ended up passing. So the board will have 523,000 that will be held in reserve for board-approved uses. So some identified needs would be, and the first one is actually middle school dugouts. So we talked about at least one bid was received at a maximum cost about $30,000. And a possible funding source would be the Athletic Capital Reserve Fund, which currently has a balance of $84,000. So that's a possible funding source if you didn't want to use a year-end fund balance for that. Another item would be the middle school entryway, to do a security retrofit similar to the high school entryway. We have a quote on that of $120,000. The middle school exterior cameras, a recent audit of exterior cameras showed that the middle school needs several additional cameras to be up to par with our safety standards. And the quote we have on that is $26,000. And then another item would be additional interactive flat panels. So we have 6 slated to be purchased in the FY '24 budget, but we need 44 total for both buildings to be fully supplied. So a recommendation would be to add 6 additional flat panels at a cost of $30,000. So the business administrator recommends approving all 4 purchases with the caveat that we maintain our promise of returning $200,000 to the taxpayers. So the total estimated cost of all 4 projects is $206,000. So if you fund the dugouts from the Athletic Capital Reserve Fund, then you only need $176,000. And this would be funded by the final unreserved fund balance. At this time, it's $130,221. But if you reduce the retained fund balance from the 2% stated at the $398,000, reduce it by $45,799, then your retained fund balance would be $352,634, which looks to be like 1.75%-ish. So that leaves the board with a total of $477,634 that will be held in reserve for board-approved uses.
Do you know where that 45,799 number comes from?
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
It's the difference between,
No, I mean,
Right.
how was that number picked?
it's the difference between what we would have in with the $130,000.
So so $176,000 is what's required to fund everything, less the dugouts.
Yeah.
And if we want to maintain our commitment of returning $200,000, well, we only have $130,000. So the idea is the $45,799 could be pulled from the retained fund balance. So instead of retaining $398,433,
That doesn't bring you to 3.
so $130,000 plus $45,000 gives you the $176,000.
So if you take 176,000
Yep.
minus the 132,21, that equals 45,799.
That's where that number's coming from.
That's where she's getting
What
at.
does that represent?
So, in order to do all of these projects, we would need to spend $176,000. But we only have, if we stick with our promise to send back $200,000 in our unreserved, I don't know what we call it.
Retained fund balance?
Projected fund balance after we fund all of our unreserved fund, all of our retained fund balance and everything, we have $330,000 projected. We want to give $200,000 back to the taxpayers, so now we have $130,000 projected, which we could spend on all of these things. But the problem is, if we were to approve all of these things, we wouldn't have enough money from that 130, so we would take from the retained fund balance. So we wouldn't fund the retained fund balance.
At
So you
2%.
take
At
the
2%.
45,799 from the
From the retained-
398.
Yep.
Right, from the
Right.
398. Does that make sense now?
Or you can handpick the items
Or
that
you
are
could
bulleted.
not fund the interactive
Flat
flat panels for $30,000. You could not fund the cameras for $26,000, and that would be $56,000, and then you would get pretty close. So then you'd basically just be doing the
The main entrance.
security retrofit, and you would be handing the 30K over to the athletic, whatever it's called. I'm not really good at remembering all those.
Athletic
The Athletic Capital
Capital
Reserve
Reserve.
Fund. So that's one of the parts we can deliberate on when we get there, is if, we could not do any of it, or we could do a piece of it, or we could do all of it. Kelly's recommending that we do all of it. That's her recommendation, and that we retain less in the retained fund balance so that we can do it.
And we still meet our commitments to put.
And we still make our commitments, exactly.
Right.
But we don't make our decision about the retained fund balance until August.
Correct.
So we would be basically making that decision now, in essence, or making it part of that decision now.
Right,
not
but
the final
between now
decision.
and August,
Right,
more funding could become available, yeah.
Right.
Do you want to hold off on discussion about this till later?
I'm not one of those people that wants to follow all the rules exactly. If you want to talk about it now, we can talk about it
Well-
now. But if we talk about it now, I don't want to talk about it again, so.
What's troubling me is we have this relatively large amount currently, and we also underspent in some areas that we frequently go to our voters to comply with when it's higher than we want. Specifically, I'm looking at special education balances over $800,000 unspent. And I'm finding it uncomfortable that when we have a surplus, we're finding ways to spend it, things that were not budgeted. Yet when we have things that push our budget higher than we would like to, we ask that those get funded. I'm a little concerned of the lack of reciprocity in the process. I also understand that we cut things out of budgets to make the budget palatable, and it's one thing if it's frugality, it's another thing, in my mind, if it's that anticipated needs did not occur. And that's what I'm seeing, is we had anticipated needs that we funded because we thought we were going to have a very heavy load in special education, and we were fortunate that that load was not as heavy. That's a particular one that we always talk about. We don't have control over that. But when the roll of the dice is in the favor of having a surplus, I'd like to find a way to do it. Now, if you tell me that essentially all we're doing is pre-spending, and that if we don't do it now, we're going to have to do it next year in a budget, that's what I'd like to understand. Are these have-to-haves versus nice-to-haves on timing? Do the extra 6
Flat panels.
flat panels out of a need for over 40, are they going to make a significant difference to the experience of our students? Enough that we want to go to the mat and say, we're not giving back this money. That's the kind of thought process I'm going through.
I can tell you that all those items would show up in the budget. The security retrofit was part of what we were looking at in looking at the science labs here, and a little bit of the work as part of that discussion. I mean, it's something we've been talking about for years and years, and it really is it really is in need, the security.
So we're not
piece.
treating this like windfall.
No.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Okay, great, thank you. So next on the agenda, was that the unreserved fund balance update as well?
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yep.
Okay, so we're now up
Budget.
to the BudCom update that you wanted to include in the agenda, Tom, so it's all you.
Right. Just have to figure out where I am. In our last discussion, we did talk, at last meeting, we talked a lot about food services and got updates about that. And it was a useful discussion, but the big concern that was expressed at that meeting was the difficulty in hiring for food services, because unlike many of other staff positions, we are directly competing with commercial industry in the area. So there's much more portability of people working in that. So I just, even though we upped the pay considerably, apparently we're still having issues with competitiveness with industry for people working in that area. I just want to point that out. The real thing I wanted to say is that I contacted the New Hampshire School Board Association to ask them about the inclusion of the Budget Committee members in NHSBA mailings, trainings, things of that nature. And the response that I got was they don't want to add them to the formal roster just because it's difficult for them to keep track of actual board members and to double the number of people that they have to keep track of. There is a problem. They have no concerns with forwarding of their emails of legislative updates, so that the BudCom members can have access to that information, which they have said they would appreciate. The other thing is training, things like webinars. I was told there are no objections to them having access to that so long as the respective board approves of that happening. So my question to this group is, are there any objections to members of our Budget Committee being aware of and participating in New Hampshire School Board Association trainings that are offered?
I don't have a problem with that at all. Do we want to make a motion to do that, or do we want to make a motion, put on the agenda for next month as a deliberative item, just so
Well,
that?
I have a meeting tomorrow night, so I was hoping to
Okay.
get some input. I don't know that it necessarily needs a formal motion. I just,
Okay.
I don't want anyone to be either shocked that they're in it or concerned that they are without awareness.
So basically, they won't get a distribution from the NHSBA, so that would be up to me to make sure that I forward it
And
to.
I figure that's part of my job as a.
Okay, so you would forward it on to
Yeah,
them?
what I would do is I would forward the emails that I get that include that type of information to the Budget Committee chairperson
That
and
she
let
can
her
s-
distribute
Okay.
to her committee.
Are there any comments or problems or concerns with that?
And if anyone else has access to that information and wants to share, they might be able to do that too.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that would
So-
be really helpful, I think. It's great. Awesome. Thank you
Okay,
for that, Tom.
that's it, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so, moving on to deliberations. So we don't have any additional deliberative items besides the ones that are on this list, right?
Correct.
Okay,
And on page 2.
page 2? Oh, yes, page 2, I know, there's a lot of pages.
It's a long one.
Okay, so, just for your information, before we make the motion, I have two potential motions here for the first one, which is the use of the unreserved fund balance, which is what Tom was speaking to a few minutes ago. So the motion as laid out in the outline by Dawn would be to approve the expenditure of $120,000 to cover the cost of the security retrofit of the main entrance, and $26,000 for exterior cameras at the Hollis Brookline Middle School, and $30,000 for the purchase of 6 additional interactive flat panels. And then you could also add to that, in the order identified, provided funds remain at year end in excess of the $200,000 the district has indicated would be returned to the taxpayer, and the ability to allocate a minimum of $300,000 to the retained fund balance. So my first question is, does anyone have a comment? Would we like to do the entire motion with the addition? Or is people okay with just the first part? So any comments on that?
Just to clarify then, we're assuming then the dugouts are gonna come from the athletic.
This all assumes the dugouts
Okay.
comes from the athletic trust fund, capital reserve fund. I don't
Whatever, the
The
athletic
athletic
something.
fund, that fund, yes. It's assuming the dugouts come from someplace else. 124, that's right. So,
I just have I do have a question that relates to this. Is
Sure.
The 300,000 that is anticipated, that was being put in, is that, is that an amount that's gonna go in, is that up beyond our control at this point? Because of the vote?
so I think if we make the motion with the minimum of $300,000, we're kind of committing ourselves to that, right? So
Yes.
if we include that in the motion, then it does,
Was that in, the 300 going to the maintenance trust was in that motion?
No,
this is
that,
to the retained fund balance.
No,
So
I'm
this-
talking about the funding of the maintenance trust to 300.
That's a different deliberative item, isn't it?
That it is.
That's item number 3.
The public hearing one.
or are you
is
just
different.
saying, so my understanding is the way those articles are written, it's up to, assuming there's available balance. So,
But the maintenance trust gets funded first, correct?
right,
They're in the
So,
order.
so if it's available, does it have to be 300? Do we
My
have
unders-
control over that?
my understanding is that it has to be 300,000, if it's available.
Okay.
But that's a different deliberative item, but does it inform how you feel about this item?
The short answer is yes, but
Okay, so, just in general, are people comfortable with the motion, the entire motion? Beth, did you, okay. So, I need a motion to approve the expenditure of $125,000 to cover the cost of the security retrofit of the main entrance, and $26,000 for exterior cameras at the Hollis Brookline Middle School, and $30,000 for the purchase of 6 additional interactive flat panels. In the order identified, provided funds remain at year end in excess of $200,000. The district has indicated would be returned to the tax base, and the ability to allocate a minimum of $300,000 to the retained fund balance.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second.
Seconded by Kate. Is there any discussion?
I'm just not sure
Just
what that
Sure.
$300 is. 300,000, what does that correspond to?
So that would be going into the retained fund balance, which is right now listed to be about $348,000 at 2%, I think is the number. So this is a minimum would go into $300,000.
So that's the money that we'll talk about in August?
Correct.
The money we'll talk about in August, yes. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so I'm a little surprised to see security and safety elements being brought as elements to spend from an unreserved fund balance. I would have anticipated, and I will apologize, maybe I don't have the full context here, so correct me if if I'm kind of going off into the weeds a bit. But I would have anticipated those elements to be in a capital improvement plan of some sort. So I'm a little bit surprised, not crazy about seeing it
Sure.
like this way, because I see those as highly significant and important. So I don't know, is there any context you can give me on that?
Sure. So they've been on the capital improvement plan, they've been pushed off. We did apply for building aid specifically for these types of items, and we're not funded. So rather than wait to put them in the FY '25 budget, the thought was, can we do them now?
So they were part of our packet that we sent into the state last year in July.
Yes.
For building aid, which then was rejected. And
Didn't
then
get
we
funded.
moved forward with the warrant
Okay.
for that. So I think that's how it skipped this year's budget. It's like
Okay.
it wasn't
We were
put in
hoping.
because it was part of that
Yeah.
process.
Okay.
And got sort of rejected.
Well, it
we
wasn't
didn't get
rejected, but we were
We
low
were number
man.
16 on 16, yeah.
I see.
So we
Okay,
lost,
that's
right.
very helpful.
So I think that's how this ended up this way. And didn't end up in the budget. Is that right?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
I don't want to speak off cuff, just that's my
That's a
understanding.
good question, thank you.
It was a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know,
no.
I appreciate the context.
Yeah, me too.
I feel better.
Okay, so I'm going to call the vote and see how it goes. All right. All those in favor? 6-0. Wow, that's great. I wasn't sure about that.
You can sigh.
Great, so moving forward, we need to I need a motion, I need to see what action the board will take to authorize the superintendent to hire, accept resignations, and terminate staff during the summer months. I need a motion to authorize the superintendent to hire, accept resignations, and terminate staff until the August board meeting, and require notification to the board of such actions.
So moved.
Moved by Rob, second by Beth. Is there any discussion on this?
Just
Is it
procedurally, are you, as chair, usually aware of those that are occurring?
Not usually. I mean, maybe I'll get sort of updates, but we kind of hear about them as they go. Like in July, he may tell us in July, and then he'll tell us again in August, so.
I know as a past practice in another district, we did ask that updates be included in the superintendent's reports as he gives us throughout the
Yeah.
summer. They're usually monthly.
Yeah, that's what he would do.
Yeah, so I suspect that.
There's just some weird stuff going on that would be nice if,
We can provide an update.
So
Yeah.
updates, regular updates at the next, well, it would just be the July meeting, because then in August, we go back to the whole thing, so. And we do meet in July, so.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor? 6-0.
did somebody make the motion?
Yeah,
Yeah, Rob
did.
and Beth,
Okay.
I got
I
it.
moved.
Okay, so now we have the recommendation for the maintenance trust. I need a motion to approve the expenditures from the Hollis Brookline Maintenance Expendable Trust in the total amount of $376,200 as outlined in the public hearing. Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Is there any discussion on this?
Where was that public hearing document?
It's like page 3.
Page 3, the public hearing. So it basically is a roof section at $117,000, road paving at the high school, I'm sorry, the high school roof for $117,000, road paving, which is the student dirt lot, is that on the baseball field side?
Opposite side.
The opposite side,
Baseball
okay.
field side,
That was
yeah.
done already, so it's the opposite side, and the front area additional edges of $120,000, and some kitchen renovations that are not eligible for food service funding at $40,000. There's also some flooring in HBMS, which is about it is $21,200, the library landing, the music space, computer science space, and teacher's room, $10,000 in HVAC upgrades, targeted upgrades to include airflow and operations, and $68,000 are we going to replace the elevator, or is this going to be added to the trust to be held for this repair?
We are ready to move forward. I don't think it's a,
being added to the 43,000.
Correct.
So
is it-
the total project's over 100,000.
Correct.
But this, it's 68,000.
Is it a repair or is it a replacement, do you know?
it's a replacement, but
Which will-
some work needs to be done just to make it ready for that, so.
So the 43 and the 68, as Holly said, is
Combined.
estimated to cover? Do we have a firm quote or anything?
Yes. Yeah, we are making progress moving forward. The timing with equipment and stuff is not working out in an ideal fashion. However, we're ready to move forward.
Do you
Yeah.
know when the work is likely to occur?
Not in the summer.
Not in the summer?
No.
Are the costs committed, or are they variable as well, based on timing? I mean,
I think they are, it's based on a quote that is just
but I
pending
didn't know if
time.
the quote has a clause in it that says, you know, if prices change in the middle of the,
Yeah, I don't know that it does, but I
Okay.
can't say for sure.
what's the additional edges that are being paved? Are we turning the road into a official two-lane road, do you know?
No, my assumption is there's an area, if you are parallel to the building, driving out, you have the staff lot here. I think it's referring to that section of pavement along the driveway that kind of extends for a second lane. It's all broken up there.
Yeah, it's all messed
Yeah.
up.
My bet would be that's what it is, because it's kind of creeping into the driveway itself now, so I think it's a noted area for improvement, and that language seems to match what I think that is.
Any other questions? You ready? Okay, so I'm going to call the vote on this. All those in favor? 6-0. Great. Okay, so then the motions for the, so I've got a motion here to accept with gratitude the donation, but we don't know if that donation's actually coming, so we can't accept that, but that would be on it.
Table it.
So, well, I don't have to do anything with it, right? Because the next one is,
Well, the only question is, based on timing, is there any urgency that we essentially pre-authorize it, so that if the dugouts if the construction wants to begin?
start right away.
Can you imagine, do we have enough expectation that it's worth doing some sort of a preemptive motion to accept donations up to an amount of, for the purposes of constructing?
I think that's a good idea.
We could do it up to, I think.
I like that.
I think we could do it up to, so I
And that way
think,
he doesn't have to come back to us.
Yeah.
Okay,
Brian, do
I
you have
just-
any estimate of what that number should be?
I mean, it's gonna be less than the 11K. I mean, I can say that for certain. I would venture a guess that you're probably talking somewhere in maybe the 7,000 to 8,000 range.
but it's a donation, so we could say up to 11, and if we get 11, great, if we get 7,
Sure.
great, so.
I'd like to move that,
Can I'll read it the way it's written.
oh, okay, there, you
There, I
have some?
have one in front of me. The only thing is I don't know if we're gonna name who the donation's from.
I am
Would-
not sure.
Okay, so we can just,
Yeah, I have asked the question, I haven't really
Should
gotten
do.
so I have this written as to accept with gratitude the donations of materials from, so, an anonymous donor at this point, up to valued at up to $11,000 to be used in the construction of dugouts at the Hollis Brookline Middle School softball field.
So we are authorizing who to accept it? The district, a person, who receives the donation?
The
The athletic director.
the athletic,
Is it going to be made to,
Well, the superintendent
Oh, yeah.
may accept
Is it
all
gonna-
non-monetary gifts for a school and the district. So I would say that the superintendent would
this
accept
doesn't
it.
have to
Or
go
this
through
actually says
HB Elevates
principals.
for any reason?
No.
no.
So authorize.
So we can make a motion to authorize the superintendent to
Superintendent.
accept with gratitude a donation of materials up to the value of $11,000 to be used in the construction of dugouts at the Hollis Brookline Middle School softball field.
So moved.
Moved by Tom, second. And I didn't say anonymous donor, it's just a donation, so, okay. So moved by Tom, seconded by Beth. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Okay, so that's 6-0, motion carries. And then, the next motion is regarding the installation of the dugouts. We would be making a motion to award the contract for the construction of dugouts at the Hollis Brookline Middle School softball field to the low bidder, which, would we name them? Green
nature.
Green
homes.
Nature,
Yep.
Green Nature Homes, in the amount not to exceed $29,900. Source of funding is the Athletic Capital Reserve Fund. Does that motion work?
Should there be any mention of it, I guess from a timing standpoint, do you want to delay the awarding of the contract until the issue of materials donation can be resolved?
I wonder if your vote would change. Like, would you not approve it if we did not receive a donation and we were paying the $29,900?
It's not that I would not approve it, it's that if we approve it and they begin and the contractor goes out and purchases the materials immediately, it essentially negates the opportunity to receive the donation.
So do you want to add some sort of language in the motion regarding the donation? How would you do that? So the motion is to award the contractor for the construction of dugouts at Hollis Brookline. I'm not being bratty, I'm just
No,
asking the question.
I'm trying to think, so it would be pending,
To award the contract for the construction of the dugouts at the Hollis Brookline Middle School softball field to the low bidder, Green Nature Homes, in the amount not to exceed $29,900.
then I would,
Source of funding is the Athletic Capital Reserve Fund. Any,
before that source of funding, I would put, subject to submission of a materials list from New Homes and sufficient opportunity to receive a donation of materials if available.
okay, so,
The-
Would it be easier just to say netted out of any donations given?
Well, it's not the
Something like
money,
that?
it's the timing
It's
that
the
I'm concerned with.
timing,
I-
it's what
I-
you
No, I understand. No, I'm sensitive to that.
okay, so I'm gonna bring you this, do you have this? And I'm gonna have you read the whole thing and say it how you want, because I think that's
Is
how.
that-
Does it help if, so when this is done and hopefully approved, I mean, I'm gonna be obviously in communication with Green Nature Homes, and we can put the red light on until we have the donation piece sorted out.
Well,
You know, we don't want them purchasing materials
right, what I
until we have that taken care of.
wanted to say, just so
I'm gonna need that.
they're not, there's no confusion, I want it to require that before the contract is awarded, that they have identified the materials list and given you the opportunity to secure a donation of the materials if
Yep.
available.
I think the way you phrased it works, I just
Yeah,
can't
no,
remember
I
what you
just
said.
wanted to explain
and
it,
that-
see
and
if
what you
that's,
phrased.
if that's
Yeah, totally.
okay for
totally
Brian
makes sense,
too.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Could we
Yeah,
work
I
in
follow
whole
you. I
numbers?
think-
quote
So just do 30,000, yeah, okay, so you can make the motion to 30,000.
I'm just,
It's the second one down.
I know, yeah. Amount not to exceed.
It's always cold in here. I'm like dressed for winter.
You always need a little sweatshirt or something here. It's weird.
It's either
A little
hot or cold, a regular size.
Regular size, just need a little something.
I'm just perfect.
You almost done there, Tom?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm gonna need that paper back too,
Yeah,
because
he's fine.
that's
So
like
you-
my whole
you're fine.
life, I can't remember.
so here's what I have written, so it says.
I think it's gonna be fine. Go ahead, read it.
To award the contract for construction of dugouts at Hollis Brookline Middle School softball field to the low bidder in an amount not to exceed $30,000, subject to receipt of a materials list and pending the opportunity to obtain donated materials prior to execution of the contract.
So moved.
Source of funding is the Athletic Capital Reserve Fund.
Well done.
Excellent. So
What's the name of them?
Green Nature Homes.
I'll second what.
I can move it. I'm
Okay,
moving that.
I'll second it.
So moved by Holly Babcock. I need a second.
Beth.
Second by Beth. All right. Okay, wait, before I get my paper back. Are you good, Tom? All those, any other discussion on this? All those in favor? 6-0.
Love
Great.
it, thank you.
Okay, I need my paper back because I can't do the motions without it. And I do all the reading of the motions because that's how this works. Okay, so next on our deliberative item is regarding the correspondence from the teachers' union. So I just need a motion to enter into contract negotiations with Hollis, what is it called? The Hollis-
Education
Hollis
Association?
Education Association. for?
Absolutely not.
I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Kate, second by
Rob?
Rob. Okay. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor? 6-0.
In
And
violation
I
of
believe that's
adjournment.
Cindy, Tom, and I that are on that committee.
Is that what it is?
Oh, Cindy, Tom in here? Okay.
Tom, Cindy, and me. Yeah, I put myself on it because just letting perpetuate. Okay.
You need to,
Okay, so, I think we'll put the motion out there and then we'll talk about the charter that Rob graciously and effectively put together for us for the Facilities Committee. So that's gonna be part of our discussion. So I need a motion to approve the formation of and charter for the Hollis Brookline Facility Committee, CFC, and the appointment of members. Oh, wait, you know what? Maybe we need to discuss this first, because I don't know who we're appointing. So let's do that. Can we discuss and then deliberate? Can we kind of go
You're the
backwards?
chair. You can do
That's what we're
whatever.
gonna do. So, if everybody could just take a look at the charter in, your packet. Rob created this and crafted it. Are there any questions on, I do have a
I
question.
could kind of summarize it
Sure,
a
that would
little
be
bit.
great. That would be helpful.
So this was kind of constructed from other work that we've done in the Hollis district. So I kind of used that as a template, if you will. The structure, so the charter is specific, that serves this board specifically. It's not chartered to go on a road show or do any forums or anything like this. It's designed to specifically do the work, evaluating, understanding what's needed, and then build a plan that for this board to consider. Should be costed out and, recommendations made. I understand there's been some work previous and last year on this, so the expectation is that we could leverage some of that work. And the only thing I was a little unsure of is the makeup. I had conversations with the superintendent, made some recommendations. I think we both feel it's light representation on the Brookline side, to be honest with you. So I had a couple questions. I hope maybe the board here could kind of help us out with that in terms of how it should be fully formed. I put some TBDs as possible, sources of participation, but I'll have to leave that open. I would say if there's things that we need to still tweak, I'm really seeking approval tonight because I'm concerned that we don't have a lot of time.
No, we need to do this soon, right.
This committee needs to bring something in December as per the charter. So to burn another month is going to be problematic, I think. So what I might suggest is if we have approval and we can decide to tweak or modify in July, that's fine, but at least an approval will get us activated. Right now, we're not activated. So I don't know if that sits well with the members here. If they need a crisp, clean charter, I can understand it. But it's burning valuable time,
Absolutely.
and that's all I'll say.
My only comments on this is that I thought we might consider adding a community member from each town.
Yeah,
And then, and I know specifically that we have concerns, that we have, Hollis Energy Committee. I know that you've put in here that that this committee would meet with them, so have a
yes, we
conversation
would,
with them. Right.
it's designed to kind of tap expertise
Right.
when the committee needs it.
Right.
Over and above the, I believe there's a subject matter expert that was being used last year.
Right.
I don't know if that's still the board's desire to continue working with that entity or not.
You mean the vendor?
But that would be probably the sitting member on the committee, but we would reserve the right to reach out to other entities in the towns. The concern is that we want to make sure Brookline and Hollis are equally represented on the committee. So that's why there's some TBDs there.
Are there any other comments on the committee? Tom?
A couple of things. One is just a question of the general structure, because one of the things that was stated to us prior was the desire to have this be a standing
I
committee
have that note too.
that was not specific to this task, because it would go on. Did Andy talk to you at all about that, and is that going to be a separate effort?
I remember him remarking on that in our meeting session. I didn't get a whole lot of feedback on that, so I defaulted to put a end date, but
Yeah, no, the reason I'm asking is, the makeup for a standing committee, in my mind, would be different than a task-specific committee such as this.
Agreed.
If we're going to just deal with this as a task-specific committee, I do have requests/recommendations for additional membership on it, based in large part on the experiences we had last year in this effort. I think it's really important to have stakeholders and champions outside of the school and the district. Technicality, just to start out, I just have some question about the wording. Under background, you have it as seeking either facility upgrade/replacement. With the either, I would expect it to be or something else. Is the either or the upgrade and replacement, or is it?
yeah, it should be that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the intent.
And then it references to the high school and middle school buildings. I think we need to narrow the scope of it, because there'll be concerns that this is talking about things like, might be talking about building expansions and stuff. I don't get the sense that this is talking about expansions to add classrooms and things of that nature.
No, it's specific to the environmental and electrical delivery.
Okay, so I think that to the high school and middle school, heating or environmental and power systems or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, but not to the
Okay.
buildings.
So amendment would be environmental and power systems.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
fine.
one amendment and
Yeah.
one revision.
Makes sense.
I would like to see, at a minimum, two members from each community who are not part of the SAU structure. One specifically from each town's select board or designated by the select board, and one member at large. I gave some names to Andy of people in Brookline who I have already had conversations about, and I suspect that there are similar recognized people in Hollis who might serve that. But I think that to be successful, we need to have that element of outreach, which we lacked
Yeah.
last time.
So when we talked about this, we did kind of want it to be a standing committee, but I think this language allows us to shift to that in June of 20.
Right, no, I'm talking about the
24.
for the task committee specifically for looking at the boilers.
No,
and-
I agree with you. I feel like we can add those, I agree, we should add community members to this task committee, and then I think
We can morph it as
we
appropriate.
can morph it in April of 2024, when this is, because it says this will
April 1st.
disband
Okay.
April 1st. So in our March meeting, or possibly our April meeting, we can vote to
Renew
extend it and
and
renew.
extend.
So I think, and then at that point, we can talk about tweaking the charter to be a more of a standing committee.
And then on section 5, item
That's
F.
how I would go about it.
You have presenting periodic updates of progress to the school board. I would like to have that a defined frequency, whether it be monthly or part of it will be dependent on, but I think that one of the things that caught us off guard is when it came back to the board, I won't say it was a done deal, but an awful lot had transpired, and it was more than could be relayed and digested by the board in sufficient time to build confidence in the board. So I think a minimum of, do you expect that how frequently do you expect the
Well,
committee is likely to meet?
I don't mind coming back at every meeting and giving you
Yeah, I
a quick summary.
I think monthly updates is fine. I
Okay.
mean, if for some reason you didn't have a meeting, the update can simply be, we didn't
And-
have a meeting,
and I-
I can-
right,
We
right.
could just send an email out to them.
And the other thing is, along with that, is, I don't know if you want it under responsibilities or deliverables, I think that the meetings should be noticed and minutes published from them.
Okay, yeah.
Did you catch
So-
all that? You good?
I did not.
Okay.
I kind of.
I've got some stuff written
got
down,
some of
so-
So
it,
do you
but-
have it written down? So, and we'll get it, and it'll be in the minutes, so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, it's changing the language from, to make sure that you refer to it as not as buildings, but as electric and power.
Yes.
That language. It's adding 2 community members from each community, potentially to be, one to be selected by the community select board, and then one to be at large. And it's adding in the scopes and responsibilities that the meetings will be noticed and minutes will be published. And I'm just summarizing for,
And then the updates?
and then the updates will change from periodic updates to monthly updates. So hopefully Dawn caught all that.
I have the notes too.
And Gina has it in her notes as well. I did not take the notes. So, so being with that, I would have the motion to approve the formation of and charter for the Hollis Brookline Cooperative Facility Committee, CFC. I'm not gonna do the appointments, I'm just gonna, as amended in the, as amended. Can we just approve the committee and then we'll talk about the appointments after that? How's that sound? Does that work? Mm-hmm. So I need a motion to approve the formation of and charter for the Hollis, and the amended charter for the Hollis Brookline Cooperative Facility Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kate, seconded by Beth. Are we
I'm
good with
just
that?
gonna, it doesn't screw up the motion, but the deliverable, you should take the word draft, it should be the final work product. Because if it's final, it's final. In December, I think we need the real thing, right?
Right. So final work product, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We gotta get you something.
Yeah,
by
because
that
that's gonna,
time. So it's not
is that
draft.
sufficient time
It's perfect.
to get into the warrant?
Okay.
Yes.
So those amendments have been noted in the minutes. We're approving this charter as in the packet with the amendments as noted. Okay. All those in favor? Okay. That's 6-0, motion passes. In terms of the appointments, Rob, you've already been appointed to this.
Yes.
So I don't think I need a motion for that.
No.
I can just simply, by virtue of being the board chair, appoint the Brookline member. So, is there anyone interested in serving?
I'd be interested, but I need to know when.
Yeah, you need to know when it is. Okay.
Do you want to do it, Kate?
I'm a little hesitant again because of my own work and time schedule.
When do you think you're going to be meeting, Rob?
I don't think anyone knows yet.
I mean, what,
I don't know.
are
It's
you, is
all
it going to be,
availability
you think it'll be
driven.
daytime meetings?
Yeah, like afternoons, we probably could come up with something like that.
So do you guys want to just we can wait, we can make the appointment via email?
Hi, Linda.
No. I was scratching my head. No.
I think it's a
goodness.
Brookline board member.
She looks bored.
Yeah. Okay, so how about we can do this offline and we can make sure that we get somebody
Thank you.
appointed to that. Okay. So, because you guys really do need to figure that. And I don't want to put anybody on who can't do it. So, next, we have some policies. We need to see what action the board will take regarding policy EHB, data records retention. First reading was May 17th, as amended, so I need a motion to accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt policy EHB, data records retention.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. I think this is your
Yep.
role to talk about.
So there were no, the policy committee reviewed the discussion and the minutes from the prior board meeting. There were no recommended changes, so we would like to move forward with this and have it adopted.
Has the motion been made?
Yes.
Are we equipped to meet this currently, or will it require changes?
No changes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Thank you.
6-0. Now we have GADA. I need, again, we had the first reading on May 17th, so we need a motion to accept the second reading, waive the third, and adopt policy GADA, employment references and verification, in parentheses, prohibiting aiding and abetting of sexual abuse.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate.
So once
Tina.
again, so both the prior policy and this policy were driven by some feedback that we received from grant audits stating that we needed different language and we needed to update them. And so this one, we brought forward for a first read with a slight change. Here it is with no changes from the prior reading, with a request to just simply second and adopt.
Any questions? All those in favor? 6-0.
Thank you.
Motion carries. So now we're looking at policy JLCB, immunization of students. You'll see there's some notes in, well, you don't have the notes, but there were notes in the minutes. But we need a motion to amend policy JLCB, immunizations of students, in its entirety by replacing it with the copy provided with the agenda and accept the third reading as amended. We are not accepting, we're not looking for adoption here, we're just accepting third read.
So moved.
Moved by Beth, second by
Second.
Kate. So does someone want to speak to this one?
I can speak to it. Just as a reminder, like you said, first and second readings we looked at were in December and January, and this was all prompted by House Bill 1035, which was effective last July, which essentially removed the need to notarize a form, and it actually really just says it needs a parent signature to go through with this. So it really just changed the requirements. So at the January meeting, I believe, just pulling up the minutes, Tom had just talked about some of the language from the form said in the event of an outbreak that a student may be or shall be exempt from attendance. So on that note, in the January meeting, we had talked about the policy committee checked to see if the form had been updated. It had not. In March, just for the record, it was updated. So the form is available out there, just in case anybody wants to see. It's on New Hampshire DHHS. No major changes to it, but it does not require a notary anymore. New Hampshire DHHS says that in the event of an outbreak, a student may be exempt. The form says shall. We've played around with this word so much, but we did talk in policy quite a bit about it and use the word may be exempt. So Tom, to your point, you wanted to include that in the policy, that if there is an outbreak, we may need to exempt students, and that would come from the recommendations from New Hampshire DHHS. So that is how we've added that language.
Exempt or exclude?
Exclude.
Exclude, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Exclude,
if they were
thank you, I'm
exempt.
sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep, so that.
Yeah, I'm just confused by the motion that I just read, because we're not, this part of JLCB
Did not change.
did not change, so we're not replacing it, removing it with its entirety and replacing it with a copy provided. We're amending it.
We are amending,
That-
sometimes the language that Dawn
That's
uses.
the word that Dawn frequently
Yeah.
uses,
Yeah.
if there's a big edit.
So I added
Okay.
the red, I mean, that's what we historically
So
did.
does
the
this
red
motion
just says-
stand then?
That's fine. Mhm.
Okay, all right. So, are there any questions on this?
Who makes that determination as to whether or not the student is at risk?
So it's gonna be, that kind of thing would have to come from not only recommendations from New Hampshire DHS, so it would, our school staff would be in communication with them, but from my understanding, by law, it would come from the governor, so. Like an act to
Well, it
actually
says here,
execute.
students have been exempted from the requirements, may be excluded, to be established after consultation with New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. But it doesn't say who has that, who consults with them.
Well, I'm not.
Is that a building level decision? Is it a SAU level decision? Is it
Similar
medical
to-
staff?
I would assume that it would be handled similar to COVID, and the answer to the question is all of the above, because that was made on with support from superintendent and administration, but it was made with the school nurses who had direct access, so it was a collective effort.
Because I'd like to see it to say, to be established by someone.
Okay, so we can take that back to policy and see how, what in practice would actually make sense, and we can bring it, I mean,
You're not
this is-
looking to adopt.
No,
And
we're
the
just on
intention
third
was-
read, but
right.
we can take your comments and go back to policy and see what we can legally include in there, and also what,
Who's
what
gonna
we
be on-
think would
who's-
be the
who's gonna
practice.
Who's going to have the
Right,
authority?
that's a good point. So can we approve this for third read? It's gonna come back for a fourth. We knew it was gonna come back for a fourth. So all those in favor of third read? 6-0. Okay, so now we have,
Is the form referenced here?
Is the form?
So the form is not legally required. The form is just a really easy way to direct parents to do that. A parent could legally, from my understanding of RSA, simply write that my student is not.
Could send an email
Yeah,
or a
they
note.
could send an email, as long as it's in writing. I mean, it really, they made it a lot more streamlined for a parent to do an exemption. So the form is not referenced because the form may change. The actual form itself, it has changed too.
Can the school make their own form?
I don't think so. From my understanding of the House bill, like the intention behind it and the way it was written, but we can take that back to
Yeah,
policy. and
I
look at
think,
that.
because you reference a form in the body of it, and someone's going to say, where's the form?
Sure, no, it's a very valid point. We can take that back, but again, it's, in the past it was a requirement, but now the way that the RSA, the way that it reads, from my understanding, is literally a patient, or a parent could literally say, they could make their own form.
Or they could send an email.
Yep.
Or write
And
it down.
Well, then, yeah, you're going to have to change that language.
Change the language.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So question about the form, and also question about who's consulting.
authorized.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So now we have policy JF, and the motion reads to accept second reading of policy JF enrollment. So I need the motion,
So moved.
moved by Kate, and I need a second.
Second.
Second by Beth, sorry. I'm getting a little tired here. Okay, so, Tim, this is on you. This is you.
So, just to review some of the history that went into the development of what's in front of you. So early and often, the athletic eligibility is checked on students every year. The NHIAA has a requirement that, and I can read exactly the language, in order to represent a member school in interscholastic athletics, a student must be in attendance as a full-time student in the district where his or her parent, guardian legally reside. And then there's some exceptions with charter schools and home-educated schools, home-educated students and non-public students. So one of the challenges that existed, and I can actually remember when I was still at the middle school and transitioning up to high school, this thing came up. Brian brought it to my attention that we don't really have a definition of what full-time student is. The policy JF existed at the time as it was adopted in 2008. It included language such as all students enrolling in school must do so on a full-time basis. Full-time basis shall be defined as attending classes for the full instructional day within the public school system. So didn't really apply to the world that our students live in now, and we looked to update that. This particular policy kind of uncovered some other policies which we created the subcommittee for, which you've seen several policies throughout the last probably 18 months from that subcommittee. So last year, so like I said, full-time status didn't appear in policy, and the only place where any definition of it existed was in our procedures, in our handbook and in our program of studies, where within the Latin honors definition, we had full-time status, that students need to be full-time in order to be recognized for Latin honors, and that full-time definition was parenthetical, and it just said 4.5 classes, which one didn't equate to if you were enrolled as a full-time student and only took 4.5 classes for 4 years, that's only 18 credits, and that really doesn't get you to the 23 that we require of students to get the HP diploma. So we dug into this policy. We tried to quantify how we would define a full-time enrollment. We expanded the definition of enrollment to include policy IMBC, which is the all-credit options. So while we increased the requirement from 4.5 to 6, we also allowed for more latitude with how students can attain that 6 credit course load. So last summer, we brought forward JF with the language that you see that was in existence, a minimum of 6 approved in accordance with policy IMBC, alternative credit options, courses and/or credits. And it was approved on August 31st. But on August 31st, school was underway. Fall sports had begun. And while this policy was approved, we had students who had already been made eligible under the previous 4.5 requirements. So we did not hold fall athletes to a different standard than the rest of the season. So we maintained the existing language for our full-time enrollment that was in the program of studies, that was in the student handbook as 4.5. So while this policy was approved, it has not been put into practice. And throughout the school year, we had the ongoing subcommittee work. And at one point, I had reached out to my principal's group to inquire about this because it had come up again and again. And the 4.5, even the 4.5 creates for some challenges with seniors, whether they're CTE students and out of the building for a portion of the day. Attaining that full-time status is above and beyond what they may need to graduate. Simply to maintain eligibility for athletics really is what it comes down to. So the ongoing subcommittee work revealed that other schools, for the purposes of athletic eligibility, they reduce their requirement for seniors who are on pace to graduate. So they have a standard for the grades 9 through 11 and a different one for grade 12. Just as an example, the Exeter High School, they have a requirement for their full-time status is 5 out of 7 for grades 9 through 11, and for seniors, it's 4 out of 7. Litchfield, which is Campbell, they had a similar percentage where their requirements for seniors is full-time status is 5 out of 8. So we had in-depth discussions in our subcommittee. We did bring Brian in for his input and his insights into how this goes. We looked at the existing language. We felt that while 6 credits made sense as a standard, we also know the world we live in, and students don't all fit into the same box. And for students who are on pace to graduate, seniors who are on pace to graduate specifically, that the requirement of 6 per year actually holds them to a higher standard than other students. So if you are playing sports, really what we're saying is in order to be eligible to play sports for 4 years, you need to be, you really have to complete 24 credits instead of the 23 requirement. So that tied in as well. So we made a little adjustment here. We added some language. As you'll see, it's underlined here for students in grades 9 through 11, a minimum of 5 approved courses, and that's the same language as the 9 through 11 in accordance with policy IMBC, alternative credit options, courses and/or credits for students in grade 12. As I said, this puts students on the mark for the 23 credit diploma. It keeps students on pace. The check for eligibility that happens 3 times a year, I think will ensure that this policy is implemented. I feel like, personally, I feel like this hits the mark really well. I think it holds a high standard, higher than most of the schools that I did speak with about this. I think that the subcommittee feels strongly about this language. We brought it to policy, we discussed it, and the language that you see here has been brought forward, again, for second reading, as is, for discussion.
So I just want to add, there's actually no changes from first reading to second. So that
Yeah, we went back, discussed this again, and it's back here for more.
The third paragraph says the only exception to this policy, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't say what happens, what the exception actually is.
the exception to the
So they're
number of-
accepted from the policy completely, I think, is what that
So
says.
the idea is if a fifth-year senior who needs 2 classes to graduate, I suppose, and that language was actually only, some of the only language that was kept from the
I know,
original policy.
but I guess, does it mean that if they are a fifth-year senior, they will be considered full-time if they have a different quantity of?
So I think the intent of the language is for a student who is getting a certificate of attendance and staying with us until 22.
Yeah.
So those students would still be eligible to be considered a full-time student regardless of the credits and eligible for unified athletics based on their specialized plan.
And are they also exempt from a 4-year limit to participation?
If you're talking about students who are eligible for unified athletics, yeah.
Okay.
Can something be added onto that sentence that says what the exception is? Because it's just really unclear as to what happens if someone is a fifth-year senior or they're a student with a specialized plan. I can't anywhere in there
Okay.
infer.
All right, so we can discuss it. The other part that I would imagine be the exception is that it is the policy of the Hollis Brookline Cooperative School Board that all students enrolling in school must do so on a full-time status. So if there's a fifth-year student who's not on a specialized plan but does have a plan to get to the 20 or 23 credits, potentially that individual would only need 1 math class or 1 English class. So we don't need that student to be enrolled for the entire day when really we're looking for 1 credit to get to that diploma. So we can
then
talk
it's
about
not-
the exception to the credit requirements.
Yeah, it's not exception to the policy, it's exception to an element of the policy.
Right. And that fifth-year senior, who's a typical student, would not be eligible for
Right.
athletics, right? Because they can only play for 4 years.
If you're talking, yeah.
If I'm talking about a
Regu-
student who just needs to take 2 classes and is not on a specialized plan,
That's
and is not playing, does not want to play unified soccer, they cannot play another year of a.
Correct, and actually, with unified sports, it's, the athletes are able to participate for more than 4 years. Partners are not.
Partners are not, okay.
Correct. Yep.
Is a fifth-year student still considered full-time if they only need a credit or 2 credits to graduate?
I don't,
They are not.
They are not.
No, they are not, but they
I
are,
think the differentiation between a fifth-year student and a student who's on a specialized plan needs to be made, though.
yeah, I think we
Right.
need to
That would-
clean
I
that
think
up a
that would
little bit.
strengthen the
So that's a
Yeah.
good point, so we can clean that up and we can bring that back to policy. And this was not for adopt, it was just
second reading.
second reading. So now we have some notes, and we can look at them in policy, that's always so much fun. Great. All those in favor of second reading of policy JF?
Was that Beth and then Kate?
Oh, that was, sorry, who made the motion?
I think Beth and then Kate.
Beth and Kate, yeah, I think that's what I know we put a motion on the table. Well, I don't really know, actually, I think we did, okay.
If we did,
Pretty
I
sure.
did. I meant to.
Finally, we
Sorry.
did, Beth made the motion and whatever. Okay, so we have finally, is this our last one? IMBD. So I need a motion to amend policy IMBD, high school credit for 7th and 8th grade coursework in its entirety, rather than placing it. Can we just do a second, this is second reading, okay,
Yep,
so.
second reading.
I need a motion to accept the second reading of policy IMBD, high school credit for 7th, 8th grade coursework.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second.
Second by Cindy. Okay. So, who's talking about this one? I know I'm not talking about any of them, which is really good for me. Is this you, Tim?
Yep.
Great.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, the subcommittee reviewed several policies specific to enrollment, credits, and this one popped up. We didn't have this one. This was not something that was in existence, and it is a required by law one, so we attempted to bring forward, we did have a reading in April.
We did it on April 12th, yeah.
Yep, and since then, we took it back to committee. This one actually just stayed in policy, it didn't go back to subcommittee, but we removed the portion of the first sentence. So Hollis Brookline Cooperative School District will grant acknowledgement of achievement to students taking advanced coursework. We removed at Hollis Brookline Middle School, and we just added prior to high school enrollment, because we do have students who take advanced coursework at Academy of Science and Design, or World Academy, or VLAX, or we do have students who do things beyond Hollis Brookline Middle School, even students who attend Hollis Brookline Middle School. So we wanted to broaden that a little bit, and also add some language here. So by qualifying such coursework as, we remove the parentheses, as potentially meeting prerequisite requirements for Hollis Brookline high school courses. If you recall, the conversation we had was about whether or not we award credit, but we acknowledge achievement by qualifying coursework as potentially meeting prerequisite requirements for HBHS courses. We added some language at the bottom. This came, I think, from Tom, the recommendation to allow for a little bit more latitude. It's not all on the principal, the high school principal, or their designee. Shall not approve, because it's not going to be guaranteed that they're going to approve the coursework, shall review such coursework prior to the student enrolling in HBHS courses. Appeals may be brought before an academic review committee. Was also language that was added this go-around.
Anything? Anyone? Oh, wait,
By,
Tom?
removing approve, it never, is approval required?
No, because you could deny that it's going to be.
No, I mean, but do they have to be approved to get credit?
Not credit.
Are you
There's no
They're
credit.
not getting credit.
What is this for?
They get prerequisites.
Okay, does it have to be approved for them to get the placement?
So the standard for our students coming from the middle school,
Yeah.
if you take our geometry course, or advanced geometry course down here at the middle school, and you get recommended by that teacher for Accelerated Algebra 2, then that's the process. It doesn't go before me. If you take Advanced Mathematics 2, whatever that means, at World Academy, that's going to require a review. So usually the registrar will be the first person who lays eyes on it, then it'll go to a counselor, and then that counselor contacts an administrator, and then that administrator works with the principal to identify the principal and the department chair to identify what the course entails and if it meets our standard to meet the prerequisite
Is it a
requirements.
subjective decision?
No, I mean, the idea is it is objective. The idea is that we're looking at our coursework and what courses it would match at the high school.
I'm just wondering if someone's going to look at this policy and say, you don't have the right to deny me, you can look at it, but you can't deny.
So you want the word approve in there. So review and potentially approve such coursework.
Yeah, I think you still need to have an approval in there.
Okay.
A possibility of approval, because if you don't,
So
To
does this,
review for potential approval.
but then I think we have to circle back around to the first statement, which is, will grant acknowledgement of achievement, blah, 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 by qualifying as meeting prerequisites. So the second sentence, it doesn't mention anything like that. So review and possibly approve, does that give someone the idea that that means they get credit for it? And the answer is no, but they are stated as like separate
I
statements.
guess
So
the thing is, at some point, is there going to be a thumbs up or thumbs down that it meets the requirements? as stated in the beginning of the,
I think we just put them together.
So I think we might need to tweak it. We might need to tweak it
Yep.
because it's a good, that's a good comment, and we'll come back again. That's usually my answer. We're gonna take your comments, we'll come back and see if we
I'm
can.
just, am I off base?
I don't think you're off base.
No, I don't
do
think so.
I do think that we might need to, it needs to be clear that the principal or his, or her designee will ultimately make a decision, especially, I mean,
It has to be a yay or nay.
it has to be a yay or nay. Like he said, like Tim said, though, that's not a decision that's an automatic decision for kids who came through our school system, through HB middle school. Like, if they pass the class and they're recommended, then they're gonna have the prerequisite. But we definitely need to indicate that there will be a yay or nay at the end of the review.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll just do that. But how we state it, we may actually put it in the
I
beginning.
want to figure that out.
Okay, we have to figure that out. Okay, so all those in favor of second read of IMBD? 6-0. Okay, so report out by the process observer. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm a little bit behind.
It was a well-managed meeting. However, what we are seeing is the scheduling. I don't know that anything could be done if this is the work we're gonna get through, but we only allocated about a half an hour for the principal report, including the math presentation and dugouts, and we took about an hour to do that. And we allocated less than a half an hour for deliberations, and we took about an hour for that. So I think there's just an awful lot of optimism about whether or not there's gonna be any discussion.
I'll start to pay a little bit more attention to that and be more pessimistic. How's that?
Well, I'm questioning whether or not we have to do all of these things on these meetings. These are really, really long, tiring meetings for people.
So an approach, in the future, we can talk about that, an approach would be to do the policy in a memo system, so, which I don't really understand it, but someone has mentioned to me in the past that if you do a memo system where you kind of approve them in chunks, you can get through them a little bit more quickly, so.
Yeah, I'm just pointing
maybe
out
you want
where,
to do that. Okay.
nothing went wrong,
Yeah.
it just takes a
It's
long
just a
time.
ton of work.
Yep.
There's no question about it.
It's a lot of work, so.
Are we meeting for sure on the 19th?
Oh,
That
thank you.
was a
So,
comment.
yeah, so July 19th, I have a couple of people who cannot make that date. And I'm a little concerned about a quorum in July, so.
I cannot make that date.
So so now I have three
I'm
people who
questionable.
can't make that date. So I threw out July 12th to Andy. I meant to send an email out to all of you, I'm sorry. And he said that's possible. It'll be tricky to get the agenda put together, but we can make that happen, I think. He's in town, right, on the 12th?
I am.
You are, so it might be Gina again. We love having Gina, that's great. So that's an alternate date, or the 26th. So I'm asking you,
I am not in town the 26th.
you're not the town 26th, but he would be. You
Well,
know.
that would be at the Brookline meeting.
Oh, that's the Brookline meeting. yeah.
Brookline doesn't have
a
a
meeting.
They don't have one?
And
Okay.
so,
It's just co-op in July.
so can we change the meeting to the 12th? Does that work for it?
I can't do the 12th, but if everybody else can, I can do the 26th as far as I know.
So, Robbie, the 19th is questionable for you.
I can do the 19th.
As we get into later in July,
Yeah.
it gets tough.
Rougher. So, is the 12th doable for you?
Yeah, I think
The
so.
12th is doable for
I
you,
believe
Kate?
so, yeah.
I can do the 12th.
I can do
Cindy's
the
the 12th. Tom?
At this point, yeah.
Okay. So, can we make that change? Change it to the 12th, please?
Let's do it right now.
Okay.
Do you want me to
Sorry,
move it? Are we moving it?
We're moving it to the 12th. Sorry, Beth.
That's
I-
okay,
it's
that's
just
okay.
To July 12th.
Yeah, those last 2 weeks in July are always hard.
The last 2 weeks are hard for you, yeah, so. Okay, so that being said, I think we can I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate, all in favor. And we are out of here at 9:12. Thank you very much, everyone. It's a productive meeting.